And we're live.
Hello out there to anybody out there. This is Uncle Tom.
Oh,
Oh, not Uncle Tom. Major Tom. Excuse me.
I have an Uncle Tom,
Ah, yeah, I used to also.
uncle by marriage, and technically they're not married anymore, so I guess he's no longer my Uncle Tom.
I don't know. You would have people that argue once family, always family, but I guess
Yeah.
it depends on
I
the
mean,
nature of the cut that.
they're still, I believe, on friendly terms. You know what? I'm not even gonna devote any more brain power to that.
Fair enough. Trying to figure out what happened.
Anyway,
Yeah, nope.
more important things to do this morning than worry about who my uncle is. Hey, so before we get started, I would have loved to use this. No, that's not what I want to do. I would have loved to have used this as a banter subject, but since this episode's not actually going to come out until April,
Mm, wow.
let's just go ahead and let me just go ahead and ask for the live audience. Did you catch the Superman teaser?
No, no, I didn't.
You haven't watched it? No interest?
Well, there's a variety of issues for me going on. The main issue is that typically I don't watch teasers.
Okay.
I wait for the full finished and then watch it. Now, having said that, of course, if I go to a movie, I will sit there and I will watch the teasers. I guess because
Right.
I don't have any other choice.
Right.
But
You're kind of there.
yeah, I'm gonna get up and leave, and yeah.
You stand up. Stop this. Stop it now.
But yeah, but out here in the world, when I can choose if I do or don't, I usually don't unless there is just something really uh, major about it that interests me. This Superman does interest me, but there have been Superman has kind of now fallen into the realm of Spider-Man as far as the movies, and it's
Yeah.
like I'll just wait and make all my judgments based on the movie because yeah. So
Yeah.
I read a lot of what people were saying, of course, crypto, and yeah, I saw Guy Gardner, and okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I'll definitely be interested in watching the movie, but yeah, I didn't watch the trailer.
I think what is what's funniest about it, and it has nothing to do with the trailer itself or the contents of the trailer, is that all week there were posts all over social media that the teaser trailer is coming on Thursday, and then on Wednesday they had a teaser for the teaser trailer, and I've seen that before, but it just
Yeah,
and the teaser trailer technically it's like 2.5 minutes long. It's the length of a full trailer.
right.
I guess it's just it doesn't really give you any details at all on the storyline. It just shows you random images, and you're supposed I liked it. I'm really excited about it. I totally forgot Crypto was going to be in the movie, and when he arrived in the trailer, I don't know. It made me feel like a little kid. I was like, my daughter was sitting on the couch, kind of watching it out of the corner of her eye. And I went, "That's Crypto, the super dog." And she was like, "Okay."
Now I do maybe wish they had picked a different breed of dog to be crypto.
Yeah. I mean, I was showing the girls like of course, after the trailer, just all this artwork has gone up
Hmm.
showing Crypto throughout the years. And there's one particular one from Alex Ross. And I showed her, I said, this is what Crypto has always looked like to me, this type of dog. I said, but I don't know. The Crypto in the movie resembles slightly, it makes me think of my dog Niles. So
Okay.
it just, but
And
it
I
is,
mean, I guess it doesn't matter. It can be a Chihuahua if you want
yeah,
it to be. That
yeah,
it's that's kind of the point or not the point, depending on how you look at it. It's like, well, he's a super dog, so
yeah,
he could
that's
be
right.
anything, I guess. So
That's right. I wasn't, I'm still a little, reserving my judgment on Guy Gardner. I think he looks kind of weird.
look kind of
Um,
goofy.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't know. It's like James Gunn just went, well, he's got a bowl cut, so let's really just take that one element
yeah.
and
Okay.
create something even weirder. But
But see, for me, the drawback is that now I know that there are other geeks that he is someone else, but for me, he's a frustrated writer that is working with the police department and solving crimes while he's writing his books, living with his mom, and that's who that face is to me. So
yeah, yeah, that's what show is that? Castle?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I'm excited for it. I think it's, I'm reserving final judgment
Yeah.
for, of course, the movie, but really enjoyed the trailer or the teaser trailer. So we've gotten a teaser for the teaser, and now we've gotten a teaser for the trailer.
Right.
Now we just have to wait for the trailer, which is a teaser for the movie.
And the movie is out in April?
July 11th.
July. Okay.
Which
yeah,
is
so
a
we got,
yeah, we got a bit, and it's that, my birthday is in July, so I told Karen, I said, come, you got 2 minutes and 20 seconds. I want you to watch this trailer with me. And we're watching it. And at the end, I just went, I know what I want for my birthday. So we'll probably go see that for my birthday.
Okay, cool.
All right. We have, according to my screen, we have one person watching.
Hello, one person watching.
I don't know
for watching.
Yeah. I don't know if that's your wife. I know sometimes she tunes in.
No, she isn't here today. She's over at her mom's right now.
Maybe she's just keeping an eye on you.
Could be. Is she doing it on her phone? Maybe. I don't know.
She's got you in the background just to make sure you're not going to talk any crap on her.
Yep.
Because that's what you're known to do, right?
I talk crap every chance I get. Yeah.
We have that talking crap on Terry corner segment of each episode. Now it says we have 2. Hello, 2 people. Make yourselves known in the comments. Do you like my title? Charles Phillips.
Charles Phillips.
Have we had Charles Phillips on before?
I don't recognize the name, no.
Charles
is this the first time you've listened to us?
Now we have 3.
Uh-oh.
I'm getting stage fright.
I was going to say, you better shape up, man.
See that episode of WKRP in Cincinnati when the numbers come in and Johnny realizes how many people are actually listening? Yeah. He just assumed nobody was listening.
That's an awesome show. First time live viewer. I've watched previous episodes on replay. Oh, okay. Well, thanks for joining us live. That's cool, man.
Charles, you are privileged to the debut of my new shirt that I got yesterday.
Oh, hey.
That's some Marvel.
Kind of anti-theme, though, isn't it?
Right.
Hat, background, comic. Yeah.
This is my, well, it's funny because Superman has always been my top number 1 most favorite superhero in the entire world since I was 5 years old. I have the picture to prove it. And
you've posted that recently.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
But I've always been a Marvel guy over a DC guy. So
yeah, well, yeah, I can understand that. Actually, recently, I must say that I have been getting into DC a little bit more. The Absolute books, and since a little bit before the All In thing, whatever you want to call it, I've started following some of the other DC books. I've read all of this current volume of Wonder Woman, but that's because my wife is a Wonder Woman fan, and I've just been keeping up with that. But, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, I've been reading those, and I'm looking forward to these, some of the absolutes that they have lined up, not because they're absolute, but because they're characters that don't really have an active book right now. Martian Manhunter, Aquaman. So I was a Marvel kid, now DC. This is the 757 Hustle Show.
I think this is a first time live viewer as well.
I believe so, yeah.
I guess we should always make sure we go live on December 21st every year.
It seems to be a popular day.
It's been our most popular day so far.
Yeah.
When it comes to reading new comics, DC's what I've been reading when I do. over Marvel. I don't think I've read a new Marvel comic in a long time. And in fact, I let my Marvel Unlimited app subscription lapse.
Oh,
Still have my DC, but
right.
so yeah, it's I'm an enigma wrapped in I make no sense.
Wrapped in DC, reading Marvel or something like that.
Surrounded in jello
Okay.
or cream cheese.
I'd go with Jello. Cream cheese is a little easy, tougher to clean up. Just subbed. Well, thanks,
Very nice,
757. If I can shorten your name and call you that. If not, let me know.
Is it 757? 757 coming over the sky. I that.
Okay. Cool.
There's an old song that probably has not those lyrics at all, but
that's what it sounded like.
That's right. That's what it sounds like in my head anyway.
Hey, that's all we can go with.
All right. We ready to get started on this?
Yes, sir.
Journey into DC Golden Age Superman goodness.
Yes. Check. Yes, it is recording. Cool beans.
All right,
I'm good to go.
Kick on my check. I'm gonna do 10 seconds of silence here to record my background starting now. I don't know if that was 10 seconds, but I can't sit that long and not make noise. Okay. I'll do the the following episode was recorded in front of a live streaming audience on Saturday, December the 21st, 2024. You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 78, The Talent Agency Fraud. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Steeven, and 1,000 miles over there to my right is another host, Mr. Ed Moore. Ed, how you doing?
Pretty good. Howdy, folks, and new listeners, and recent subbers, and all the other qualifications.
I still have in the show notes here, I forgot to delete this little note to say Merry Christmas.
My volume seems low, Billy. Okay.
Billy's always complaining, isn't he? Hi, Billy.
Can you hear me any better now, Billy?
Let's see what Billy says.
I did notice my levels seem kind of low on my Audacity, too. I'm not sure. I mean, I've got the gain pretty high on my mic. Merry Christmas!
Yes, for our live viewers, we're like what? 1, 2, 3, if not including today and not including Christmas Day, we have 3 days until Christmas, or as the Muppets put it in the Muppet Christmas Carol, 3 more sleeps. Well, of course I sound good. Billy D says you're still very low and that I sound good. Billy, you don't even need to say that. We know.
I'm not sure what to do to
Whoa. You just
clear that up.
You went up. You're
did
low.
I?
Yeah.
So now I guess it's louder. I didn't do anything unless the internet is catching up.
Yeah, I don't know. It shot up there. Yeah, Billy says it's better now.
Oh yeah, you're right. Audacity is popping higher too. Okay. I don't know what it was. Sorry to. Now both sound solid.
Solid state like a Mack truck.
Cool beans.
So we are now officially entering into our banter segment of the episode, and I have something that I want to show you. I went to I put this out, I think, on Instagram or something, but back in July, I got a Barnes & Noble gift card for my birthday, and yesterday finally got the chance to use it. Went into Topeka, Kansas to the Barnes & Noble, and
when you reach right through that issue of Action Comics in the background, man.
Really?
Everybody see that? Yeah, right through it. It's like, dude, okay.
It's magic. I got the Star Wars Archives book. And it was, thank God for smartphones and the internet and wireless and all that junk, because this was wrapped in cellophane on the shelf, and there's nothing on it
that tells you what's in it.
Yeah, that gives you no indication other than this, which is this weird little insert that goes over the pages.
Curious. Okay.
And it says the best book on the greatest saga in the world. And of course, I cannot get the greatest book.
Well, I mean, yeah, it kind of sells itself there.
Yeah. And if they're going to put it there, it's true.
Right. It must be whatever's in it, even though I can't see what's in it. Right.
But so I just jumped on my phone and went to Amazon and looked it up to see what it was all about, and it looked pretty interesting. So yeah, it's just it's supposed to be it's the first 3. It's got a lot of pictures and junk like that. So yeah.
Surprised you didn't go for that new definitive Superman book that just came out.
What's that? I don't think I saw that.
Yeah. Take me a minute to find it. Billy on social media has been talking about it. Superman Billy.
I haven't been reading a lot on social media lately. I just been trying to avoid
Superman, The Definitive History by Edward Gross.
Oh, yes. I do remember seeing that. That popped up through Comixology of all places.
Okay.
Last week or the week before last when it came out. The ebook is like $20, which
that is much better than the actual book.
Yeah. So I may check it out. I have a couple of Superman audiobooks, nonfiction, the history of Superman audiobooks. And I've listened to one, and I started the other, and I kind of want to get through those before maybe I buy anything else. But they did have, I came very close. Charles Phillips says that the definitive history is gorgeous. Haven't been able to pick it up yet, but friends have posted their pics online. They didn't have it with the graphic novels in Barnes and Noble. Maybe they would have put it somewhere else. I don't know.
Maybe. Speaking of friends posting pics, I think all of the friend pics have pretty much been taken over by the recent style guide that people have been getting.
Oh yeah, I've heard.
You're not aware of that, Steven? The DC style guide?
No, I think I've seen some stuff about it. I thought I saw somebody post.
Aware of it, but there we go. But yep, you're moving. Okay.
Did I freeze?
You froze, and then both images went down and cycled and then came back.
Charles says Michael Bailey just posted an interview with Ed Gross on his It All Comes Back to Superman.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Saw that too. But are you familiar with the DC style guide, Steven?
Yes, I think I have seen some pictures of that being posted.
That I have one on order, I guess, because I didn't order it from the source. Mine is taking a little longer to get to me. I guess everybody that's getting them must have ordered them directly from the publisher. At a premium, I might add, if you ordered it from the publisher. Whereas if you ordered it from the secondary market, you could actually have gotten it cheaper, substantially. Yeah. But mine isn't supposed to ship until Christmas Day. So I'll probably get mine around the turn of the year.
Yeah. They did have a Superman, a Golden Age Superman collection at Barnes & Noble that I picked up first, and I was going to get it. I think it had the first 25 stories, or the Superman stories from the first 25 Action Comics issues, and then all 5 of the first 5 Superman issues. And
I think that one just came out.
Yeah,
that sounds very familiar.
I had it in my hand, and I was going to get it, and then I thought, you know what? I just read all these.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah.
I've read them all. I've got them all on, through Comixology. So I didn't get it.
In fairly recent history too.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and I almost picked up that first giant GI Joe collection that Image Skybound put out. But I had it on my Christmas list for my kids, and I called my daughter over and I said, should I get
look
that?
familiar?
She goes, yeah, I wouldn't get that today.
Okay. Then there we go. Okay. Yep.
So that's something to look forward to. It's big.
Cool.
All right. Any banter?
Anything I was going to introduce, I'll introduce in the next episode so that we have something there too.
Yeah, I don't have anything for the next one. All right, so today we're looking at the talent agency fraud, which is the second story to appear in Superman number 10. It's written by Jerry Siegel with art by Paul Cassidy. Superman number 10 has a cover date of May/June 1941, but an approximate on sale date of March 5th, 1941, according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics. And here is what happened in the story. Lois nearly quits her job when a talent agent, Mr. Grady, tells her he can make her a movie star. Clark suspects trouble and finds that Grady is a scam artist. The reporters interview Mrs. Walburn, one of Grady's victims, and get confirmation of Clark's suspicions. Superman busts into Grady's office and recovers his records. The crook tries to stop him, but Superman carries him around the city until Grady is ready to confess to the women he victimized and turn himself over to the police. I feel like this was a standard story plot in many 80s sitcoms. Minus the superhero aspect.
Right, yeah.
I feel like there was most sitcoms had an episode where somebody got sucked in by a talent agent that you had to pay money to.
Right.
Thought they were going to be a big star.
Yeah. Of course, they can't guarantee anything, so they're not actually like stealing your money. The money's a retainer, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
That's right. What'd you think of this one?
It was entertaining. The two that we'll be discussing today, of course, I read back to back, and they both felt very similar. And they both kind of left me with the same feeling, which was, okay, I'm not upset that I read them. Superman Golden Age stories, I mean, since the onset, they've moved up as far as interest a little bit, but a while back, they still have plateaued as far as, I guess, at this point in time, what they're willing to do. So there was nothing outstandingly unfortunate about the story or the art. Both of them were, they kept me entertained and kept me interested in the story. I was able to finish reading both of them, which is a big deal for me because anymore I'll pick up, I don't know how many comic books on a weekly basis and read 8 or 10 pages and then not pick it up again.
Yeah.
That one didn't do it. So,
yep.
So there are some things I think in this one that I was wanting to point out as we get to it. It was this story. And I apologize again. The two stories that I read just seem so similar that keeping them strictly apart, unless I'm looking at them, is a little difficult just off the top of my head. But, plus I read them first thing in the morning on a Saturday when I've been getting up early all week and not today. So the brain matter was a little... plus it's cold and snowy outside. So everything was working against me as far as understanding what the heck I read. But I was able to cope pretty well.
Yeah, taken by itself, it's fairly standard Superman Golden Age fare. You know, nothing special about it, nothing exciting. It's a pretty standard story. When you compare it to the first story in this issue, the one we talked about, in the last episode, the Invisible Luthor.
Right.
The Invisible Luthor was so much fun.
Yes.
And so then you go from that to this, and it's like like you said, there's nothing wrong with this story. There's nothing. I didn't throw my tablet down in disgust and start stomping on it. Yeah. I'm gonna go back in time and sue the creators for wasting my time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was fun. I think we're seeing Superman, of course, get back to I don't know if you would this wouldn't be considered social justice. It's more of a street level
Yeah.
just the guy's a fraudster. He's a con man, basically, right? He's a dude who poses as a talent agent, but doesn't really do anything for anybody. He just takes their money and
Yeah, I think you would like classify this as the crime of the day kind of story.
yeah.
That's and plus two, if you really really enjoyed or they put seemingly more effort or energy into the first story in the issue, typically there have been 4 stories per Superman issue, so you can't keep that up necessarily. So the second story, if the first one was really had the feels, well, the second story probably isn't going to be able to maintain that anyway. So there'll be, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but there'll be a letdown, just because they had this really cool idea and then, well, we have some other ideas. It's like, okay, well, that's, that's fine. You have 4 chances in this one book to really knock it out of the park. And if you do it on one, hitting a home run every 1 out of every 4 times, boy, that'll definitely keep you in the major leagues. So, that's not a bad average.
Yeah, and if you use a TV analogy, especially since we talked about 80s sitcoms earlier, you got a season of TV that's 22 to 24 episodes. There's the handful 4 to 6 episodes that are just really really good TV, and then the rest is just kind of filler to get us us to that stuff,
get us to the point. So it's up and down, or however you want to describe it, but this was and again, like you said, I don't think there was anything wrong with this story. I can't say that it was not good. For what it did, what it added to the mythos, it's fine. There are no 20 years from when this came out, people will remember that there is no major key, no minor key, none of that. It's just a solid Superman story. Maybe some characters that they could bring back, maybe the bad guy, or maybe they could put one of the models was there and we didn't know about it, and years later she came back for some, so it's like, it's okay.
Well, let me take us through the story here. We open up in the Daily Planet. Lois is staring into her pocket mirror from I guess her purse, and she's just loving her reflection. She's loving it. And Clark comes up and he wants to know what it is that she's looking at. What's got you so excited, basically. And she shows him her mirror and she goes, "It's, my reflection. It's me." And then we learn that, of course, she's represented now by this guy, Mr. Grady of Grady Talent Enterprises. But I guess it does say here on the second page, Mr. Grady tells her that she might have a great career ahead of her on stage and screen.
Right.
So she's going to be an actress. Perry White comes over, because I guess I should back up. The very first panel in this story, once you get past, we have these, we've talked about them before, that very first top panel, which kind of gives you a teaser on what's coming in the story. But once we actually get into the story, everybody in the Daily Planet bullpen, they're just depressed. They're unhappy. They're sad. And it's because Lois is leaving to become an actress, to become a superstar. And Perry White brings that up. And Lois actually refers to him as Perry. Is this the first time?
I think so. And also note, we see his face.
Yes, we got a full-on Perry White face. Not only his face, but he's not sitting behind his desk. This might be the first time we've seen him just up and around, actually doing something other than sitting behind his desk.
We are now aware that he's not confined to a chair.
That's right.
He is mobile.
He's not like that robot receptionist from the Baxter Building in the Fantastic Four.
Right. Or what was his name? Davros, the leader of the Daleks, confined to the wheelchair.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, that was kind of a deep stab there. Yeah.
So Clark and Lois then go to the talent agency because so that she can show Clark that Grady is on the up and up, because Clark, of course, is suspicious, which I think if I was Lois at that point, I might be a bit offended. You know, if Clark's immediate go-to is like, yeah, you're being screwed with. There's no way you can be an actress.
But in reality, shouldn't Lois be suspicious as well?
Lois should be. If of the two of them, Lois should be the most suspicious, which I guess we learn here that Lois is super vain.
Or she really, really wants to be an actress,
Yeah.
and so she's blinded by that possibility. I mean, it's never come up before, but perhaps nobody's ever asked. So,
but they go to the talent agency, and we get my favorite bit from this issue, and it's when they walk into the makeup room where there's a lot of women getting their hair done and putting on makeup. And Clark, I guess, assumes that they've walked into a dressing room.
mm-hmm.
And so he's immediately embarrassed and wants to leave because I guess he's afraid he's going to see naked women. And Lois, who is wearing, is this the one where she wears the Green Arrow hat?
I don't think so.
No, it's not. It is a green hat. It does have a feather coming out of it.
Yeah,
but it's not a pointy one, which we'll see in the next story.
Her hat here looks more like a beret.
Yes,
with a big feather through it.
But she tells him to calm down. It's just the makeup room. They meet Mr. Grady, who looks a bit like Mr. Rourke from Fantasy Island.
Yes.
He's wearing the full-on white suit with a bow tie. I guess that might be considered a tuxedo, maybe a white tuxedo.
Maybe, yeah, just minus the tails, no tails.
Yeah, and he's got the little or the little pencil thin mustache that is separated in the middle, so just the two little bits of mustache and his hair's all slicked back. So immediately I'm suspicious of the guy. You don't have to tell me anything about him, but there's something about all white tuxedo, slick back hair, pencil thin mustache. Immediately I'm suspicious.
Right. It's triggering all these tropes and memes that we've run across over the years. It's like, okay, bad guy, but they haven't told us yet.
If he was in a club, maybe I'd be okay. But
only if it were a club in the 1920s in Shanghai. That's the only place that would work.
Right. Because he does appear to also have a flower on his lapel, but it too is white. So it's just represented by a circle there on his lapel. But yeah, I think anybody who comes to work in even I wouldn't consider running a talent agency kind of a dull drudgery type of office job, but still he's not a club owner.
Right.
He's not I guess he's working in the talent industry, quote unquote.
Well, but he's not in the public eye, and you would think that that's what that outfit would be for.
Yeah, so for him to come to work in a full all-white tux, the only thing that's not white is his black bow tie. I'm immediately suspicious of him. But there's a woman there already who is very upset. Is this did they give her name here at all? I don't see her name.
I don't think so.
She's very upset because she was promised a bunch of things and she's given money and she wants the results from her training.
Now, is this the woman later on who was said to be the opera singer?
No, the opera singer is an older lady.
Okay.
Older big lady. So
that's two people that we have seen that are that are distressed with their handling with this agency then.
Yeah. But Lois introduces because it's here that we learn that through this woman who's complaining to Mr. Grady, it's here that we learn that this is one of those talent agencies where you make your payment, you pay them up front for quote unquote training. And Clark immediately finds that suspicious, which you should, because a real talent agent isn't going to get paid until you get paid. That's their impetus to get you work so that they can make money. But Lois introduces Clark to Mr. Grady and tells Grady that she's invited Clark because Clark thinks that Grady is a crook. And that doesn't seem to offend Grady. He just, oh, well, we're a legitimate business. And so Clark counters with, you charge your clients for training. Isn't it your job to get them work? Isn't it your job to place them? Why would you be charging them? And that's what takes Grady over the edge and just kicks him out. Don't you tell me what I can and can't do. Get out. And they leave. Lois tells Clark that she thinks that he deserves it.
Lois is on Grady's side.
Yeah, she's still on Grady's side. But she got her money back, because then we go immediately back to the Daily Planet offices. Perry White is back behind the desk,
sitting at the camera over his shoulder. So the beginning part was an aberration. They were like, "Oh no, what did we do? We gotta put him back." Yeah,
everything is now right with the world because Perry White is where he's supposed to be,
over the shoulder, looking at Lois and Clark in front of him. Yeah.
But she tells Perry that she got her money back. So we didn't actually see that, but apparently she got her money back.
Yeah.
Clark, then he wants to go do some further investigating, but not as Clark Kent. He wants to do it as Superman, so he changes into his Superman garb. He leaps out the window. We now know he's flying, and we get a quick moment of he's not quite hanging on that windowsill. It's like he drops out of the sky.
It doesn't. I didn't really put that. I don't think it really counts. It's like he's catching himself there.
Yeah. Even though, because we're still technically, I guess the creators were up in the air about whether or not he's flying. Retrospectively, we're saying that he's flying now based on, But in this instance, he literally is free falling. He's dropping out of the sky and he catches himself on the windowsill, which surprised he didn't do any damage. He's got to be careful with that stuff.
Yeah, really.
And he makes mention that he is so used to entering through windows that it's beginning to be second nature to him.
You shouldn't say that out loud.
No,
that's not good.
Sounds like a Batman thing.
Something. Yeah.
But he breaks in because he forces the window open. He goes into the office and immediately he opens up the first desk drawer, and right away there's a gun, which immediately in Superman's mind, well, if this guy's got a gun, he's a bad guy. And that's not the world we live in today.
Certainly
and,
not.
That wasn't the world maybe 20 years ago at this point, 20, 40 years ago even. Everybody had guns.
Well, I'm not sure at this time it necessarily should mark him, because this gentleman runs a business, and his business probably is a cash transactional business. People come in and give him money. Well, he's not going to keep all that money in his office. He's going to deposit it somewhere. Well, when he's walking around at night after the business closes, going to the bank to deposit, he'll carry a gun in case some mall comes up and wants to knock him over or something like that. So it's like, that's not that fishy to me.
Yeah, Superman's really judgmental here when he finds that gun, because he says out loud, a gun seems to me an honest businessman wouldn't have to keep a deadly weapon in his desk.
Yeah, not true.
It's like, hey, Superman, you know what? A letter opener can be considered a deadly weapon. So just take it down a notch, buddy.
Well, not all of us have impenetrable skin and whatnot, you know,
So the gun is all he's found so far when Grady arrives and Superman hears him coming into the office. And then comes my next favorite.
This panel is awesome. This is awesome.
I really had to study this panel and read it 3 or 4 times to really quite understand.
Oh man, this is phenomenal physique. Billy says apparently Superman's never been to a 7-Eleven. Well, yeah, probably not. As far as carrying a weapon, I presume is the reference. Yeah.
Yep. Remember when 7-Elevens were actually just open from 7 to 11?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually remember 7-Elevens. Now I don't know that I could tell you where one's at. They've been bought and name changed and whatever. So
I feel like we had one up until the last couple years in Lawrence, because I
Okay.
remember telling my kids, well, you know why it's called 7-Eleven? It's because they were open from 7 to 11, and nobody was open to 11 back then. When 7-Eleven
No.
came out, people were like, 11 o'clock? Are you crazy?
Yep.
They might have even been open on Sundays, which was just, I remember that being an unthinkable thing.
Okay.
But yeah, so as Grady is coming into his office, Superman leaps up, grabs the top of the doorway. What do they call that? Do they call that I guess the molding atop the doorway. He grabs the
over
molding,
top. Yeah.
pulls himself up, and basically he planks, but in midair. He's just holding himself up by one hand. He's literally lying in midair vertically, holding himself up with just one hand, because that is how awesomely strong he is.
That is core muscles from hell. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That there's I mean, this, like you said, he is, and it's like, planking, but he's planking in air with just one hand holding the top of the jam. And so it is supporting, whatever, 210 pounds of his body, whatever Superman weighs.
Yeah.
Just from, looks like he's got 3 fingers and maybe the palm and the part of his forearm on this top of this door jamb.
Yeah.
And the rest of him is held out straight at that same height. So he's planking out at about 8 feet, looks like, I'd say, over top of Grady when Grady walks in. Grady walks right underneath him to go to his desk.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, when I saw this, I was immediately like, what the frick is going on here? But sure, he is massively super strong. It makes sense that he would be able to hold himself in a position like that. Now, do I believe that the woodwork could take that kind of weight? The way it's distributed on that wood?
That's another matter. I didn't think of that, but yeah.
I think the woodwork, I mean, yeah, they built everything to last back then, right? That's what they always say,
Yeah, but still.
It's not like he's hanging straight, he's would that be perpendicular to the ceiling and the floor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no, parallel.
He's parallel.
That's right. Yeah, the floor.
Parallel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's another one of these. I always, we make jokes all the time how when it comes to reading about a character who can fly and who can do all these crazy superhuman things, and how we can suspend our belief when it comes to stuff like that. But I just cannot, when somebody walks into a room and there's somebody literally hanging above him. I mean, Superman, look at that image. He might be half a foot above Grady.
I'd say he's probably about 2 foot over him. No, Grady, look at the size of the door.
Yeah.
The door, which actually, this is a huge freaking door from perspective, because to the top of the opening of the door, there is a good 1.5 feet or so between the top of Grady's head. Either that or Grady is like 4 foot tall. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, and then, you've got the door frame and you've got the molding over the door. So you've got another 6 or 8 inches there. And so I think he's about 2 feet if Superman is at the same level as the molding and not has fallen some and is still holding on. So,
yeah.
But what gets me is, let's say Superman is 6 foot tall, let's say. So Grady walks in, and 6 feet away from him are Superman's feet. Right. And his peripheral didn't catch that something is in the air that far away from him. Now, right above him, of course, we never see right above us unless we look. But out, I mean, my peripheral from my body extends about 1.5 feet or 2 feet, and I can start to see at my height on either side of my peripheral vision. So 6 feet out.
Yeah,
So
if he was pressed flat against the wall above the door,
oh no,
I would get that. I totally get it.
If he was standing with his back against the wall, Grady would never see him.
As soon as Grady started coming through the doorway, he should see his feet out there. And
Some part of, yeah, I don't know.
there's just this thing when it comes to fiction, whether it's TV, movies, comics, as soon as you put somebody in the air above somebody else, everything above their eye line just becomes invisible.
Right.
And
They never see it.
it just
yeah.
drives me crazy for some reason. But so the guy comes in, completely misses the fact that there's a dude hanging in the air above him, picks up the phone to deal with somebody named Walburn, who we'll meet later. He refers to her as a battle axe. And as he gets on the phone, Superman does this thing where he then drops. He's still holding on to the molding. He drops, swings through the doorway out to the other, to the outer room, and then back up so that he's sitting on the molding.
Sitting on that, which you can see is drawn much thicker than what the molding on the other side of the room, other side of the door was. So
very, very much so.
Yeah.
And again, Grady, I mean, maybe his office is like the size of a football field. I don't know, but you think he would at least sense that movement.
Yeah.
This disturbance in the air, maybe.
Something. Especially if he thinks, see, that's what gets me. If I'm in a room full of people, I don't feel that way. Yeah. But if I'm in a room by myself, my personal space is huge, and I notice movements or I notice more sound or stuff, so it's like, so he's in this big office, maybe both of these rooms, by himself, and Superman moving around doesn't trigger anything for the dude. It's like, well, you are one mellow dude to not, okay.
Now, I do like that when he's swinging through the doorway, they do draw him so that he's holding his cape to his body. So he is reducing the sound. We don't have the sound of a flapping cape as he's swinging through the doorway. But still, you think the wood at the least there would be a lot of creaking on that wood.
Would it creak or it's anything, something's got to make noise. But no, Superman's too good for that.
But he gets up there and he's hanging out on the molding above the door on the other side of the wall now, and he's listening in to Grady's conversation on the phone. He's calling Mrs. Walburn to respond to the numerous letters that she has sent him, and he's decided to go ahead and come on over and visit her to discuss the matter, and tells her that he's going to be over directly. And he leaves. He gets in his car. He now is wearing a white hat to go along with his white suit. And actually, the tie on this page, maybe, I don't know, the tie on this page is white.
It was red on the page before.
Yeah.
And then
mysterious color changing bow tie that he's wearing.
Yeah, when we first met him, it looks like it was black. So it's.
So he gets in his car, and then Superman again does something that you would assume would make a lot of noise, and that's to it says he streaks down. So I don't know if he jumped out the window. I don't know, but suddenly he is behind the car and he swings underneath the car, and he's holding on to it from underneath as the guy drives along. Another one of my favorite moments comes up here, and I think I'll chalk this up as my favorite actual use of superhuman, Superman's abilities, because Grady is racing through the streets. He's upwards to 70 miles an hour through these metropolis city streets, and he's not paying attention. He's so angry that he's not paying attention, and a woman steps out into the street in front of the car, and the car is about to barrel into her. There's no way that Grady can stop in time. So Superman just reaches down and digs his hand his fingers into the pavement, digging trenches into the pavement with his hand to bring the car to a stop, which Grady just chalks up to, I guess my brakes were better than I thought they were. Must be a loud car, because you think that would make a lot of noise.
Something.
Yeah. So we get to Walburn. Oh, God, I forgot her name. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
Walburn.
get to Miss Walburn's house. I do enjoy the page where we get to Walburn's house. We get one panel seeing the car with Superman's cape shooting out the side of it from underneath.
Yes, underneath. Yeah,
I like that artistic choice. And it's one of those moments because, of course, everybody is talking out loud. And he's driving. He avoids hitting the woman because Superman brings the car to a stop. And that's when Grady is saying out loud that I guess my brakes are better than I thought they were. And Superman underneath the car hears him. So he says out loud, if Grady only knew, which in turn, Grady didn't hear Superman. So, yeah. Comic books. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
But we meet Walburn. She is, I guess, I don't want to say that she's what you'd expect from an opera singer, but she's an older woman. And she's paid Grady thousands of dollars, and he has done squat for her with that money. And it's at this point that he basically tells her, yeah, there's nothing I can do for you. You suck. I can't get you any work.
Yeah.
You're a terrible singer. And so she kicks him out. The only thing she can do at this point is to kick him out because she threatens to sue him to get all her money back. And that's when he points out, well, if you sue me, then first of all, you'll have to live with the embarrassment that you got tricked into this scam, that you were gullible enough to pay me thousands of dollars. And then people are going to find out that you don't have any talent. And so she's like, all right, you got me there. Well, at least I can kick you out of my house. Get out. She obviously has money, though, because she's got a butler.
And pearls on just a normal, regular day kind of thing. She's wearing a big set of pearls.
And she was able to pay him thousands of dollars. So, Superman is sitting in a tree. And he watches Grady pull away. And so that's when he goes, he telephones Lois. I've almost forgotten these two stories like you. They've kind of run together for me. He telephones Lois and he tells her that he needs to see her there. He needs to see her at the Daily Planet. He's got something important to tell her. And when she arrives, okay, this is another one of my favorite moments. When she arrives, Superman is writing the story, and he tells her to wait because he's finishing up the story. He's typing it out. He hands the story into Perry White, and basically tells Perry, "Here's the story. I can't prove anything right now. It's all conjecture, but so just hold on to it because I'm gonna go prove that
let me get the proof, and then you can publish the story."
Yeah, I love that because Perry even tells him, "Oh, so you've turned seer, have you? You can see into the future, basically." And he's like, "Yeah, if you can prove all this stuff, this will be a great story." And I don't know, maybe this happened a lot where a reporter's like, "Look, I have the time to go ahead and write the story now. I know I'm going to be able to prove all this right, so I'll get it written now, and then I'll go prove everything." But it's not like a word processor where you can go in and change stuff real quick if you find something different. But
you could argue that even now the media does this and they never get the proof, but it's already been published, that's so true. That's true. At that time, we would hope that is not how it occurred, that you had evidence and then you published. Whereas now it's gotten to the point where evidence, just publish it, so
as long as you have a headline that'll draw people in, and then
that's it. As long as you get the eyeballs, does it really matter?
Yep. But Clark takes Lois to see Mrs. Walburn because he wants you to have her tell Lois, her show, this was my experience. I'm one of Grady's victims. And Lois, she's skeptical until she hears the story, and then it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, he's a fraud. And she immediately, in pure Lois Lane fashion, she's ready to go give Grady a piece of her mind.
Yep. Even though she got her money back. So, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, he toyed with her vanity. He made her believe that she was going to be, I don't know any of the big movie stars at the time.
Myrna Loy.
Sure. I don't know that name.
Oh, you've never heard of Myrna Loy?
Nope.
I'm not sure if she was active in the, what is this, 41, 42 when
41,
this came out?
41? 40. Yeah, 41.
I'm sure Billy will pop in here in a minute as our movie aficionado and let us know. Myrna Loy was alive 1905 to 1993. So in the 40s, she would have been in her mid-30s. So yeah, I can hardly wait until I face that human jackal.
So, oh yeah, that's something that Lois says. But Grady will pay. Billy points this out. But Grady will pay for his deception. Come on, Clark. I can hardly wait until I face that human jackal.
Yep.
I love Lois.
Jean Harlow, William Powell. Those were approximately the same time as Myrna Loy. Oh yeah, Myrna Loy was definitely acting at this point. There's Billy. I knew he'd know.
Billy with the info.
He watches all those black and white movies, man.
So so they go so that Lois can go confront Grady. They I guess they take a cab, and when they arrive, Lois storms out of the cab. She hasn't even reached the building yet, turns around, and Clark is gone.
He's already took off to change.
And I like how they point out here, they don't do this too often. A lot of times when they show him changing into Superman, they don't do a really great job of showing us that he's doing it at like super speed. And it almost looks very mundane, especially when they show him some of those early issues where he was sitting on the bed, lacing up his boots. Or
like we do it.
Yeah, exactly.
He does it like we do it. Yeah.
It's just very disappointing to see from Superman. Billy says Myrna Loy was acting as early as the silent era. Oh,
wow. Okay.
Before they became the talkies.
Right. Before talkies. She was acting before talkies.
But in this panel, he's changing into Superman, and they mention in the narration that Clark transforms himself to Superman so swiftly that his figure seems to blur. And then he races up the stairs. He races through the makeup room where all the women are in there still getting their hair done and putting on makeup. And he runs through so fast that they can't see him. But of course, there's a powerful gust of wind that goes through the room, and they're just like, oh, well, freak gust of wind.
Right. That's right.
Which, you know, and if they're in a tall building and the windows are open, I get that. It's pretty windy up there.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Superman arrives in Grady's office before Lois gets up there. He finds Grady's safe, and he rips it open, and he pulls, I guess, the records, Grady's records, out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Grady busts in and confronts Superman. What are you doing with those records? And Superman just responds with a great, give you one guess. And Grady tries to put him in a headlock, which is funny.
Right. And also take note. Apparently Grady doesn't know who this is.
Right.
I'll bring this up again in a little bit. But yes. Here, Grady doesn't know who this is. He has no clue.
I was hoping you would bring that up when it comes up, because when we get to it, I remember reading it and thinking, we've talked about, Ed brings this up a lot, so I bet he'll talk about this.
One way or the other. Yeah. But here is a case where after, however long that this thing has been occurring around town, that there are still people who don't know. Now, I don't think there have been any pictures published, so okay, I can understand. But eyewitness accounts would have to describe what he's wearing, because it's very different from what normal people are wearing at the time. So if you saw him and he did things, for instance, Grady came in because he heard noise. The noise he heard was Superman ripping his safe apart with his hands.
Yep.
I don't know what kind of noise exactly that makes, but it has to be something rather memorable. So
Yes.
you run into the office. He's holding the contents of the safe. At his feet is a safe that has been ripped apart, like the big strong dudes do with the big thick phone books. You know, they turn it and then they just drop. Well, the dude's safe is at this person's feet, ripped apart.
Yeah.
He's wearing this outrageous costume. No idea who this is. I don't know what he is or what he's doing. Oh, he has my records. I need to stop him. And it's like, dog, really? You're in the entertainment industry. And you don't know who this is? So,
Yeah.
Okay. I'll step down now and we'll read the rest of the story.
Yeah, the sound of a metal safe being ripped in half, I couldn't even imagine what it would sound like because I don't know that it's ever happened.
Yeah,
But
you know.
because of that, yeah, you would think, I don't know. So ultimately what I'm picturing is he runs into the room. He sees this character in this gaudy outfit. He has just heard a sound he has never heard before, but it had to have been very alarming and very loud. And so his mind takes in, here's a guy standing over my safe that has been torn in half. And then his mind, I guess, went into that fight or flight reflex. And
I guess
his brain chose fight.
Yeah.
Which got him thrown against a wall.
Right. Thrown across the room. So that didn't work. So, Superman, I think I would have just run away, Billy said. Yeah, I think so. Especially if at this time you knew who this was. You ran into the room, opened the door, and you see the other way, just straight away the other way. But
it's the same thing though with the criminals that always, even the criminals that, once it gets to the point where they know this is Superman,
right?
We know that he's bulletproof, but
they keep going.
We're going to continue. We're going to shoot him anyway because maybe my gun is the gun that's going to kill him.
Right. Now that does come up in the next story that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
All of these scenarios about recognizing, not stopping, and the writer does play with that in the next story. So but not here. This one.
Yeah, but I'll tease that. It's a great moment in the next story. So Grady picks himself up off the floor because he basically comes up behind Superman and wraps his arm around Superman's neck, tried to put him in a chokehold. Superman flips him over the top of him and throws him against the wall. Grady picks himself up and has the balls to punch Superman right in the chin.
He just caught him. It was a lucky judo throw or whatever,
And of course, that very next panel, he's like, ouch, is that chin of yours made of steel?
And here's your favorite.
Trouble, eh? Superman's response. We get, that's at least one A in this issue. I think
yes.
In this story. Yeah. I think we get like 7 of them in the next story.
In the next one, yeah, they're all over the place.
But, and then Superman just does his thing where he just starts handling Grady bodily by first he picks him up over his head, then he holds him with one hand in front of him by the jacket, and then he climbs out the window holding Grady kind of on the shoulder. He's almost tucked under his arm, but not quite, and dangles him out the window, and then brings him back in because this is
read Billy's comment.
So first Billy says, bulletproof, but guys still try to punch him. And then super dickery, the early years. Yes.
Now, isn't what Superman is doing here, isn't this called coercion? And nowadays it's illegal?
Yes, we've talked about this before. This is his MO, which he hasn't used in a bit.
Right.
But it's like most of the early stories, he was doing this all the time. We see him do it here, and I think we see him do it in the next story.
I think he does it in the next one too, yeah.
He's basically dangling the guy out the window of this. They're pretty high up compared to the building that you see next to him. Mm-hmm. hangs him out the window and tells him to confess, with the implied threat that he's going to drop him onto the sidewalk below.
If he doesn't. Yeah. Okay.
And so he pulls him back into the office, asks Grady if he's reconsidered. Grady, again, just a set of steel balls on this
That's
guy.
right, man.
So this guy comes into his office after hearing an alarmingly loud, probably scary sound, sees his safe ripped in half, sees a gaudy man in a costume standing over the ripped open safe. He tries to subdue the guy. The guy throws him against a wall. He tries to punch the dude in the chin, finds out that Superman's chin is like steel. Superman just starts picking him up and throwing him around and hanging him out the building. And still, Grady at this point is like, fuck you.
What? That's because Grady is okay. His feet are on the ground. Yeah. He's in good shape. So he's like, nah, man, I ain't doing nothing.
So that's when Superman decides to kick it up a notch.
Yep.
He picks up Grady, jumps out the window with him, and just flies him around town from way up in the air. They plummet from the air at one point, scaring the crap out of him. He stops them from dropping out of the air by grabbing one of these flag poles that never seem to have flags on them. Or is it could be a clothesline pole? I don't know.
I thought it was a flag pole because it's got a big ball on the end of it. Yeah.
But I whenever I see stuff like this in these comics, there never seem to be flags on them. Spider-Man's always grabbing them and bouncing off of them and stuff. And
yeah, those are the horizontal ones, right next to a window, and he jumps off of them or whatever. Yeah.
So we get a bit of a Christmas reference here when Superman then takes him to the top of a immensely tall smokestack and says, let's play Christmas, and I'm going to drop you down this chimney just like Santa. And that is when Grady has had enough and he's ready to confess. And so Superman brings him back to the talent agency. They come in through an open window where all these women are waiting. And what happens?
Including Lois, right?
Including Lois.
Yeah, she's in the green. Yeah, all the women start like fawning over him. Because, well, Lois uses the name, but at least the women do recognize that name. It's not a case of, like I brought up, nobody's ever heard of him. Yeah. So they are aware of the mystique behind the name, and Lois drops the name. So then all of these women that have been waiting in the talent agency to see Grady start fawning all over this individual that has been called Superman by Lois.
Yeah, so this is the first time. This is the moment that I was when I read it, I'm like, oh, I bet Ed's going to bring this up, because just like earlier, we talk about how can nobody recognize Superman? How do people not know about him yet? And here we are with this woman says, you mean that's the Man of Steel everyone's talking about?
There you go. Yeah, it's like, okay, thank you.
We get our first moment where we learn that finally Superman is starting to become a known entity in Metropolis, that people are talking about him. I mean, good Lord, you have to assume that every one of Clark's articles mentions Superman, because if it wasn't for Superman, of course, he wouldn't have a lot of those articles. And most of the articles are about crimes that Superman foils. And so, that the Daily Planet, at least, are reporting stories about Superman often. But like you said, we don't seem to have had any pictures printed of Superman just yet.
No. There is no, unfortunately, Peter Parker around to get pictures of the big hero yet.
Yeah, and we know that just from this one panel, because, these women didn't recognize him as Superman right away. It's not until Lois says his name.
Right.
And one of them says, gee, he's as handsome as they say. And so apparently amongst the social scene of women in Metropolis, they're talking about the criminal underworld. Nobody's talking about Superman. But the eligible singles, that scene, that's Superman's all over that scene.
Right.
So they're back. So, all right. So he's got Grady back in the office, and Grady again, one last time, he's going to try to be defiant now that he, like you said, he's back on solid ground, and he tries to tell everybody that Superman is a madman. He's the bad guy. And Superman grabs him one more time and tells him to repeat his confession loud so everybody can hear. And he, based on the thickness of the lettering in this word balloon, Grady is screaming at the top of his lungs, "My talent agency is a fraud. I've never placed anyone. I profit solely through charging for worthless advice." And Superman hangs him on a coat hanger, jumps out the window, dresses back up as Superman, or dresses back up as Clark, while Lois gets on the phone and calls the police. And then we get our final panel here where Grady is being put into the back of a paddy wagon. And
so once again, Clark gets the byline for the article because he submitted it before it was even done and then told him to publish it.
Right.
Usually we see at the end of the stories that he somehow manages to get to the office first and submit the article. But here, he submitted it before it was even done and summed it up, tied a bow on it, and then said, okay, go ahead and publish that I gave you earlier today. I guess it's the same. So again, he scooped Lois, but it is in a different way this time than it has been the past several.
Yeah, he did it before there was really technically even a story.
He wrote the story before the story existed, and so he got it in that way. Yeah.
He wrote the story and then said,
he
made
the story.
I guess I better go make the story true.
That's it. Oh, and yeah.
Lois even says it there in the final panel. Let's get back to the office, Clark, and tell White he can print that article you gave him. I would love to read the article because obviously Clark makes a lot of, points out Grady's guilt. But because he doesn't know how to prove at that point that Grady's guilty, I'm assuming the article still contains nothing in the way of evidence. It's just
probably
this man is guilty. Story over.
What he's guilty of, maybe some of the people affected, but it doesn't say anything about what he did or anything. Yeah, because he didn't know yet.
Right. And, I think an essential part of a news article like that would be that Grady confessed to his crimes in front of multiple witnesses. But since that hadn't happened at the time that he wrote the article, he can't include any of that.
Unless he knew that he was going to make him confess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Or maybe it's like one of those articles that's like, in tomorrow's edition, we'll have more information and the evidence to back this story up.
More information to come.
Yeah.
Stay tuned tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the story. That's the story.
It was fun. It was, it had some, like we pointed out, some things that don't make sense, but then they haven't made sense every time they've come up. Some new things that were maybe not making sense, like him planking off the top of the door jamb. That's pretty intense. Yeah. But you have to admit it is very, very creative. The ways that they did things in this story in particular, that the hiding under the car, which isn't new, showing his cape trailing so that we knew that he was still under the car. That is new. Trying to stop it, damaging the street. That was new. We haven't seen that before. Flying around trying to get the bad guy to submit and confess. That's not new. We have seen that. So I mean, there was a lot of both brand new things that are hard to believe and things we've seen before that are hard to believe. So it's like, okay, yeah.
I think, simply coming off of the tales of the previous story, The Invisible Luther, and then the Action comic. I don't remember which story it was from Action Comics that we read before The Invisible Luther, but they were both so, they had brought back the arch villain. They had brought back the super science. They had brought back the crazy sci-fi sort of part that we love about Superman. So coming off of that into what is really a more pedestrian type of story, it makes you look at the story a little bit different. But yeah, like you said, there's a lot of good stuff in here, and the Superman holding his cape as he's swinging.
Yes, as he swung under the door.
That was really neat. We see Perry White walking around without his suit jacket on, and he's called Perry. That was a pretty.
We saw his face finally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good story. I would call it, all right. So if we categorize Superman stories as into 3 levels, the bottom level, which not good stories. The top level, which is stuff like the Invisible Luther and the story with the orphanage where Superman's running around in the basement fighting the old guy with all the crazy
torture
stuff
room under the orphanage. Yeah, that is classic.
Those are the top, and then there's just there's the big
everything
middle.
In between. Yeah,
and this would fall into that middle category, but I think it would be at the top of that middle category.
Yeah, sure.
It was a good story. It had a lot of fun things that happened in it, and a couple of firsts. So that was kind of fun. Yeah. I want to look back at that moment again where Superman stops the car from underneath, because as I'm kind of looking at that, it's funny because, one of the things that we talk about a lot is how here we have these stories that are 13 pages long, and there's so much packed into those 13 pages. And this one page, I think, is one of those examples where it's almost like they're going, well, I mean, we've got this page where basically the guy gets in a car and he's going to drive to this woman's house to tell her that he's dropping her as a client. We need some action on this page, because obviously this guy almost running into a woman on the street has nothing to do with the story itself. It doesn't further the story.
Right.
It doesn't give us any information that will help us solve any mysteries. It's just they had to inject a bit of action on this page, and I like it. I like that he stops the car literally with his fingers, just his fingers, digging into the asphalt.
Yeah.
And I want to see the guy, the city worker who stumbles across that later. It's like, what the hell happened here?
No doubt. What is that? Yeah.
Guess we got to patch this up. So yeah. Again, I think we've talked about that before too. I would really like to see just a series, a book like Damage Control from Marvel Comics. It's just about the people going around and fixing the stuff that
based
Superman,
in Metropolis. Yeah.
But instead of being a specialized group, again, just some city worker that has to go out and patch up those gouge marks in the even if it's just a panel in the next story. We see in the background of a panel some guy filling in these trenches with some asphalt. That would be great. I'd love that.
Yep.
All right. Anything else you want to say about this story?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, folks. That was the Talent Agency Fraud, the second story to appear in Superman number 10. That's all that Ed and I have to say about it. So until next week, folks, I'm Steven. That's Ed. And this was the Superman Super Show. Bye.
Ciao.
All right, let me save my file. I really enjoy how we bring these shows to just an abrupt halt.
Well, it's not abrupt.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
We talk about what we want to talk about, and then it's like, okay, I'm talked out.
We don't try to we just, it's like, we're done.
Yep.
Show's over. Original audio.
Test 1, 2. Yeah. Okay. My levels are still good. Cool beans.
Okay, so before we start this one, how you gonna how do you pronounce that name?
Uh. Spy ring of Rejeb Bay. Rejeb. I'll go with Rejeb.
Okay. I have no clue. I'm always really bad when it
Mhm.
comes to names. My mind immediately just tries to pronounce it phonetically.
Mhm.
And I was sitting there looking at that because this one I read this morning. The other one I read last night. I read this one this morning and I'm like, okay, how are we going to pronounce that name? And I start thinking of other words that end in GH. I'm thinking thigh. Is it Raya? No, Raya Bay. That doesn't sound right. And so my brain was saying Regob, but I don't think Regob is right either.
It doesn't. With the knowledge that I have of the place that I presume that they're from, I don't know of anything that sounds like that. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas I think Rejeb Bay, that's possible.
Yeah. Rejeb Bay sounds all right. Sounds good. That's yeah. All right. I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay. Do we need silence at the beginning of this file too?
Yeah, let's do that for a couple seconds.
Okay, then we will start now. Hey folks, you're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode 79, The Spy Ring of Rejeb Bay. Howdy, welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host, my name is Ed, and 1,000 miles over there to my left is another host, Mr. Steeven. Or, Steeven, how the heck are you, dog?
I am doing just fine.
Cool beans.
It's the end of December. We're rolling into Christmas. I'm not quite ready, but you know what? I don't think we have ever not still been shopping on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, I think I would have to go along with that. Now, the importance of what I am after has diminished over the years. I have learned, the more major, more important things are already out of the way. Christmas Eve is the last minute stuff that I have forgotten, or the one more thing that I want to get, or something like that. So yeah. That has changed over time. No longer am I haven't gotten anything for my wife. Not that I ever did that. I fortunately was that smart early on. But, I know other people are like, I still haven't found. It's like Christmas Eve might make that kind of tough, dog.
It's a nice thing about having kids that are grown because they understand. I told them the other day, I said, they know that when it comes to our finances, that it's basically going to be the last check of the month that I'll be using to purchase Christmas presents.
Okay, so you'll have to put it off until
So they know that, I told them, I said, you guys will have presents to open on Christmas Day, but some of them, not all of them may be there. And so they understand that.
Right. Okay, now something I wanted to bring up. I want to tout another comic book publisher that I'm a big fan of.
Okay.
And I understand, given when folks are listening to this, that this has been occurring for a little while, but it's still not too late to participate. 2025 is the 20th anniversary of the publisher Boom. Boom Publishing. And for their 20th anniversary, what they're doing is they are releasing a series over the year of 20 trade paperbacks that have not been collected in the way that they collect them. Most of them, I think all of them actually, are going to be hardbacks. So a lot of these trades have never been out in hardback. Some of the books have been traded before. Others are a compilation trade. Well, they would take two smaller series that maybe each had a trade, and they put both of them into one book this time. So I personally am looking forward to that because I've always been a huge Boom fan. Now, what they did is these 20 series they chose to highlight their company over the next year. Looking and there are lists that they released a list, and then of course other news sites published the list. That I wasn't able to discern any where or why over the particular series that they chose. Like I say, some of them have never been traded, some have, some are by huge creators. One is by Stan Lee. Others are just the normal pack of creators that Boom has used. Some of them are LGBTQ authors and stories. Some of them are not. Some of them are creators of color. Some of them are not. I mean, there is no through on all of the series that they've put into trades other than they're Boom properties and they wanted to put them out in 2025. Those are the only true connections between them. So that is, I'm looking forward to that. And so some months, I mean, if you do the math, there's 12 months, but they're releasing 20 trades. So some months will have 2 or 3 books. Another thing that they're doing, all of these trades, hardcover, are $19.99.
Nice.
And I do know that looking at them, the biggest is a 12-issue trade. The smallest, I believe, is an 8-issue trade. So 8 issues and 12 issues, both will be $19.99 when that hardback comes out. So I think what they're doing is they're reaching into the vaults, pulling out things that they think people would be interested in, trying to make them as economical as they can, and put them out there to introduce people to some of the properties that Boom has, which, you know, over 20 years are quite a few by this point.
I'm looking through the list. I found a list. I'm looking through the list.
Okay.
I recognize Bone Parish, though I don't think I've ever read it.
Okay. That isn't that by Cullen?
Yes, that's a Colin Bunn.
Yeah. And I think near the end of the year is, I think, The Traveler. That's the Stan Lee concept. I don't know that he actually wrote it, but he came up with the concept of the character, and then whoever did write it ran with it.
Yeah. But the only other one I recognize is from August, the Daymen complete collection. I think that's the only one off this list that I've actually read.
Daymen really is an awesome series. James Tynan, I think, has some stuff that is not as well known as what he's doing now. I think there's a Backstagers.
Backstagers, yeah.
That's a James Tynan or Tynian or
Tynian.
I thought I knew how to say it, but now I don't. I think it's Tynian.
Yeah, because that's why his newsletter is called Tiny Onion.
Tiny Onion, yeah. I try to remember that, but I don't. It doesn't always go through in time for me to say it, and then I'm like, no, that's wrong. And it's funny because I always try to be a stickler of saying the names right.
Yeah.
And so it starts in January. I think January they drop like 2 or maybe they drop 3 in January, and then every month is a $19.99 hardcover trade or more, 1, 2, or 3, for 2025. And most of them, for one reason or another, I could recommend. A couple of them just kind of didn't work with me, but maybe they would work with other people. But all of them are very interesting reads, particularly if you want to get away from superhero fare.
Yeah.
Even The Traveler, I don't remember being a superhero, so I don't think there are any superhero books on that list.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, well, there's something called Hero Squared.
Well, no, that is a superhero, but that's a parody. So even that is like, yeah. That was Mateus and Keith Giffen.
Yeah, So the 80s post-crisis Justice League team, basically.
Basically, that's what it is. The Bwahaha.
Without Kevin McGuire.
And our podcasting associate Chris Parton is a huge fan of Hero Squared.
Oh, yeah?
So if anybody wants to talk about that, look up Chris and talk about it. He'll talk that series all day. Well, multiple series, and actually that is one that even has an associated limited series that does not bear the name of the trade. Hero Squared, there were 2 miniseries they put out, but then it branched off into a third book that had 2 issues that is supposed to be included in that trade too. So,
yeah, this says it's got, let's see, Hero Squared Extra Size Special One Shot, Hero Squared 1 through 3. Wow, that came out in 2005, so that was one of their first ones.
Right, yeah, that was early on.
Hero Squared 1 through 6 from 2006. Hero Squared Love and Death 1 through 3, and the Planetary Brigade spin-off series, Planetary Brigade 1 and 2, and Planetary Brigade Origins 1 through 3. Because I think I started doing Just Another Fanboy in the end of 2006, and I know there were Boom titles I was reading at the time. The only one that comes to mind, Code Breakers, which was not a superhero one. It was like a couldn't even tell you who did it, but it was like government agency type stuff.
Malloy Carey, Carey Malloy and Scott Godlewski.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a spy book.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. Boom.
Yeah.
Wow. 20 years.
A lot of good stuff. Like I say, especially if you're looking for something other than superheroes. They've got a lot of... Cullen Bunn has done a lot of work there.
Yeah.
Of course, right now, probably Tynian's Something is Killing the Children. Probably is the banner comic book coming from Boom right now. I'm sure some people would argue that, but as far as the mass public, I'm sure many people have heard of that book.
Yeah, I need to get back into that one. I've read the first 2, maybe 3 trades, 4 or 5 times. It's one of those that I remember, like I'll use Paper Girls as an example.
Okay.
Started that series 3 or 4 times, got distracted, walked away from it, came back a couple months later, and I have one of those brains that's like, I have to start it back from the beginning.
Right, yeah.
I don't remember a lot of this stuff. And finally, I got around to just taking a month and just reading through all of Paper Girls, and finally got it done. And I need to do that. And I did that with Invincible. That was one of those that I started multiple times. I need to do it with The Walking Dead. I've never finished The Walking Dead. And I need to do it with Something is Killing the Children, though it's not done, right? It's still...
No, yeah. It has taken breaks, and now it even has a sister book or a brother book, whichever way you want to go. And I think they might be getting ready to drop... There's at least a one-shot, and I don't know if they're going to wrap up that story in that one book, or if that is the start of yet a third ongoing series set in the same universe. Talking about books, another one came to mind right now that people might know of. There's a horror anthology that's coming out called Hello Darkness. And one of the stories that started in the first issue is by some wannabe writer named Gaiman, I think is his name. He has a story in that. So
he sounds like he sucks.
Whatever. He's British or something. I don't know what he is. Australian.
They don't have good writers coming out of Britain.
No, not since the early 80s. We brought them all over here and taught them how to write. Wow, that's going to get a lot of feedback, isn't it? Yeah, sorry about that. So, alrighty, guys. Today, go ahead.
Real quick, just for reference for people who are listening to the episode, it's December as we're recording,
Yes.
but April.
It is. It is not December when these are coming out,
as you guys are listening. So yeah, a few of these trades have already been out, and I closed down the list, so I can't tell you what's coming out, what's being released in April. But yeah, boom, 20 years. That's crazy. It's just
20. It's hard to believe. And the cool thing for me is, a gentleman podcaster friend of mine, Chris Parton, and we were recording a show that talked about Boom Books when they celebrated their 10th anniversary.
Nice.
So we were talking about them. All the different things that they were doing to celebrate that anniversary, and it's like, oh well, here's another anniversary. So, although this anniversary is a little different, a lot of the upper level people have left. Boom has been sold to a bigger publishing conglomerate, you could argue. So Boom's situation starting this anniversary is substantially different than when they started the 10th anniversary.
Yeah. Huh. All right. All right. Let's talk some Superman.
Alrighty, folks. Today we're looking at the Spy Ring of Rajib Bey, which is the third story.
Third story. Did I put the wrong thing?
Or my eyes aren't working right. I'll blame it on my eyeballs. The third story to appear in Superman 10. This is written for us by Jerry Siegel and arted by, what is that a word? Arted? It is now.
It is now.
Arted by Wayne Boring. So Superman 10 has a cover date of, is it really May, June? Yeah, I don't think so. We'll say July, August, 1941. And an on-sale date of, I'm not sure, sometime in March. Or sometime in May, probably. You looking that up real quick?
Yeah, I'm going to confirm. Because it's the same as, it's same as the last episode.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be. Or, it should, because it's the same book. I'm sorry. I'm goobering things up. Okay, let me do all of this over again.
The bit where it says the second story, yeah, that's mine. That's my bad.
Okay. Superman 10 has a cover date of May-June 1941 with an approximate sale date of March 5th, 1941. Both of those pieces of information courtesy of Mike's Amazing World of Comics. So, you know when, you know where. Let's see what was happening. Look, oh, damn, that was a good segue, man. Wow. Okay. I'm actually getting decent at this podcasting thing finally.
You are on fire.
Dude, 15 years and I maybe know how to do this. Okay. Here's what's happening. Lois investigates a phony astrologer who uses hypnosis to gain military secrets from officers visiting his parlor. Superman has to rescue Lois when the astrologer, Rajib Bey, tries to kill her. Undaunted, Lois returns disguised and proceeds to get hired as Rajib's assistant. Lois is found out again, but not before slipping evidence to Clark. Rajib hypnotizes Lois into retrieving the documents. Lois shoots Clark while she's in the trance. He's unharmed, of course, and learns of the plot. As Superman, Clark stops the spies' operation and brings them to the authorities. Lois is then released from her trance without memory of any of the events. So, Stephen, what'd you think?
This story goes to show how little they knew of hypnotism back then, or the power of hypnotism, I should say. And this is the second time, the second story since the Action Comics #1 that we've come up against a villain who is a hypnotist.
Mm-hmm.
Both
and
times,
I believe they were both Eastern in origin.
Yes. Yeah, both times the guy wore a turban.
Okay. Yeah.
And so the knowledge of hypnotism at this time is it's a Middle Eastern thing, and you can do pretty much, you can make somebody do anything you want them to do.
Right.
Just simply by, because in both of those stories, when somebody's being hypnotized, the guy just basically opens his eyes really wide
Which they did a good job of showing in this,
yeah.
in this story.
And then it's like, bam, they're hypnotized. We don't see the pocket watch come out. You're getting sleepy.
Nope.
Count back to 10. It's just an instant, bzz, boom, you're hypnotized.
Now, unfortunately, they didn't show the little electrical bolts like you used to see to hypnotize somebody. And we'll go ahead and acknowledge, yes, some of the aspects of this story probably are not that they are not cool now, but they're just not cool. At the time, these are the way a lot of these things were written, and the way that potentially white males at the times thought of these things. We know that it's not the case. We know that it more than likely has never been the case, but that is the way it is represented here. We have nothing to do with that. We cannot change it at this point. So,
yeah, and I never got. I mean, with the first story, and I don't remember what issue that was from. It was very early on, but that villain that was a hypnotist, he was of Middle Eastern descent.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, I didn't get the idea that this guy was. To me, he was just a white dude that put a turban on his head and could hypnotize. Despite his name, I don't know, I just never got the idea that he was of Middle Eastern descent. Though the fact that they're calling him Rajid Bey, the fact that he wears a turban, the fact that there's a woman that comes in at one point that they refer to as wearing Oriental clothing, who is not Asian. She was not an Asian character.
Right.
But
his big muscular second also falls into this Middle Eastern or Asian trope kind of thing. So
wearing the big pants and the vest without the shirt on, which is like straight out of a Looney Tunes cartoon.
And we don't know per se that was his name.
Right.
That is the name that everybody used. We find out that his assistant wasn't that.
Yeah.
We found out that the female assistant, the big muscle dude, was not mute like he first came across. So what's to say that this wasn't just the dude's persona and his name was Frank from Toledo or so? I mean, we don't know.
I got the idea. The idea that I ended up getting by the end of the story is that the hypnotist himself and all the cronies, they're just your basic organized crime dudes that they're just grifters putting on exactly.
Yeah.
And
that's all.
Before you take us through the story, I just want to point out real quick, it's kind of a teaser for the next episode. The next story in this issue, the last story in Superman number 10, is called the Deucalia Spy Ring. So I find it really weird that they have two stories in this issue dealing with spy rings, and it's the last two issues. Now, of course, these actual stories were never titled, so DC had to come up with titles after the fact. But still, the fact that we have the spy ring of Rishabh Bey, and then following it, the Deucalia spy ring. Spies must have been really big for those couple of months that they were.
Well, plus two, I mean, you consider this is the beginning towards the middle of 1941. So I'm sure that concerns of that nature are starting to ratchet up quite a bit in the general population, given what's going on in the rest of the world. So I would think that things like that will be coming up more and more for the next little while. All right. So once again, we have a half-page panel that kind of hints at what's going to go on later on in the story, with a nice, deep-throated kind of radio-voiced narration box here, which I won't go into because I don't want to sit here and read to everybody. But I just mention it because there have been books in the past, or stories in the past, where the splash page did not necessarily I think this being the third story in issue 9, I think all three of these stories, the splash page has related directly to that story. So that's cool that they're kind of catch on to that.
Yeah, and I think the last couple of Action Comics have done the same thing. So they've come up with a template here that I think is works.
with the splash pages, but
Yep.
the covers
Right.
still don't necessarily do it. Sometimes
No.
they do,
Yeah.
sometimes they don't. So even at the beginning of superhero comic books, the cover was intended to be a piece of art that grabs your attention.
Yep.
Maybe not had anything to do with the stories
Yeah.
other than the character, the stories inside. So
Yep.
with Action Comics, you could think, well, it could be any one of 7, 8, 9 different characters that would get cover space because of the stories. You would hope that in Superman's own book, at least Superman would be on the cover, and they've pretty much done that. So
Yeah.
they're sticking to part of the formula there. All right, so we have Clark and Lois. Well, lost my place here. Walking around for some reason. Okay, yeah, they've gone to lunch and they're coming back to the offices of the paper, and they happen to pass Rajiv Bey's place. I guess it must be newer because they've never noticed it before, it seems to be.
Yeah.
And the only reason they notice it is because right outside someone is rushing away, having left the establishment, and bumps into Clark. And, Clark apologizes and Dude doesn't. And the whole scene is intended, I think, to show us that Dude was in such a hurry that he even lost any modicum of decency or common respect to pay attention to apologize to any of that. But because of that now, that triggers, of course, the newspaper senses of Lois and Clark. And they're like, wonder what's wrong with it. Something's going on. Oh, look, a business we have never, ever seen before. Which they don't say that, but they certainly act that way. I mean, if it's near the paper and they go to lunch,
Yeah.
you would think at some point they would have noticed it before, but not now. So whatever it is, it is. So later on that day, Clark is working, and he starts thinking about that whole interaction, the new sign, the new business, which is interesting because even though he's sitting there thinking about it, Lois decides that she is going to check it out. So both of them are interested, but they decide to handle their interest in different ways. Clark, of course, sits and ponders while he's going to write part of it or something, but he's sitting in front of his typewriter, and that's what triggers the I wonder juices. Whereas Lois is like, I wonder, as she's ringing the doorbell of the place to get in. So it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
it's a great Lois moment because she recognizes the guy that bumps into Clark. He's a clerk in the ordnance division of the War Department.
Which,
and
interesting. She has those connections,
Right,
but okay,
right.
yeah. Wow, that's a pretty deep connection there.
Yeah, and that's when they're like look up to see, well, what's this place that he's walking out of? And she says to Clark, Rija Bay Astrologer. That's a strange place for a War Department employee to visit. Run along, Clark. I'm going to be busy. So she's decided right then and there, I'm going to look into this, but I'm doing it by myself. Hit the bricks, Clark.
While she's there, does she ring the doorbell? Or does she even do that? Yeah, it says she does ring the doorbell. And in answer to that, the door just opens. Kind of that, spooky. It's an astrologer because of the sign. So you got to be kind of spooky and clever-handed about it. So she goes in and speaks to the gentleman that is the second of the Rajib, and he is wearing a fez. Doesn't have a propeller on top. It's just a straight fez. The muscle vest with no shirt and some kind of pants. We can't really see him. So it's that tropey Arabian kind of strong man kind of outfit that he's wearing. So they have Lois sit down and wait over here, and she notices that there are other people waiting. The people that she notices, the one that we can see, okay, that's why. It's the wife of a general. So she recognizes somebody from the ordnance department. I don't know. And she knows enough about General Gerard that she recognizes his wife. So
yeah, and I know that eventually the canon is that Lois's dad is a military guy.
Is
So
military,
she's like,
okay.
She grew up as a military brat, but they haven't they haven't
Mm-mm.
established that at this point. But I wonder if because of stuff like this, if that's where future writers got the idea. You know, she seems to know a lot of military people. You
Could
know,
be. We have a chance right now to explain this by just saying
yeah,
this about her dad. But yeah, whatever is the case right now, she seems awful plugged into offices that maybe are above her pay grade
yeah.
as a reporter. So she's sitting here waiting, and she notices something. The narrator tells us the room seems close, right? CLOSE is close,
Yeah.
not close.
Atmosphere of the room seems close. Yeah, that's weird.
Close. Okay. A wave of drowsiness creeps over the girl reporter. So she falls asleep, wakes up, immediately looks at her watch, realizes it's been 30 minutes. Checking out, doing the pat down because you're in a strange place and you fell asleep. She notices, well, I mean, at least that's what I do whenever I fall asleep. I make sure I still have my keys and my phone. She notices her purse has been rifled. Here, a girl in Oriental costume greets Lois. That's what the narrator tells us. That's what Steeven brought up about this young lady. We find out something very interesting about her a little bit later on. This is the visual cover on what they're doing, because she is dressed as the filmy Scheherazade kind of woman with she's dressed. Actually, I'm sure this picture was a little edgy for early 41 comic books, the young lady.
A lot of leg.
Yep. And torso. And
Yeah.
what is that called? Décolletage? Is that what it's called? The upper chest and the
A lot of skin.
décolletage. Yeah, something like that. Somebody out there can correct me. She's taken to Rajib Bey, and I like how they've started doing this. They in the same bubble, they have thought and they have vocalization, and you can tell the thought because it will be broken out somehow. Here they're using parentheses, and it occurs several times in this story. Hasn't occurred overly often before now, but every now and then. But they really seem to use it a lot in this story. Several different people doing it, and I like that because I think it's a much more economical way to do both than to have, you would have to make the panel bigger in order to get separate bubbles of all these things. So they only have so much space, so they do it both in the same action bubble, and they just break it up so that you can tell.
Yeah,
so Lois
and normally they would, if Lois was by herself, they would just have her speaking her thoughts out loud. We saw that. We see that a lot in the last story. But when you got a situation like this where they're face to face, she can't say what she's thinking out loud because obviously he'd hear her. So yeah, I agree. I like how they do it this way. I know that the first time we ran across it, I was really confused by what was going on. But you pick it up real quick. It's not that hard to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, after you see it a couple times, you're like, okay, now I see what they're doing. Because, like you said, it's obvious that you can't say because then they would hear it. So, so they interact, Lois and Rajib Bey. Lois puts on an act. She's a lot more with it than... I don't necessarily know why she felt that she had to really try to be gullible, but that's what she's doing. She's playing dumb, let's say.
Yeah, especially since she does. She doesn't do it for very long.
No.
It's during this first interaction that after he says a couple things that she plays along and then ends up going, all right, enough of this crap. So yeah.
Yeah, why was this ordnance division dude here? Which is like, okay, that's going to get you an answer. Okay. Yeah. It's like, just confront them directly and they'll just fess up right away and be like, yeah.
And what's funny about that is back to that first page when, Lois decides she's going to look into this. She makes Clark leave. She didn't want Clark along. and we see Clark in the office. He he's speaking his thoughts out loud because he's alone, and he has this hunch that Lois is, as he puts it, Lois is about to engage in her favorite sport, getting into trouble.
Yep.
And that's exactly what she does here, because Lois, it's the thing I love about Lois is that she's not afraid to sit there in front of two obvious bad guys and just,
Yep.
she's by herself, but she's not afraid to go, look, I know you guys are doing criminal activities and I'm going to tell the world, and just doesn't assume that, especially after the multiple times she's done this in the past,
Right.
and
yeah.
has been kidnapped. She just keeps doing it. She just doesn't care.
Here we find out that the big tough guy's name is Raj, or at least that's what he's referred to. R-A-J. I assume that's how it's pronounced. Raj. So Rajiv Bey tells Raj to escort the young lady, where. She knows too much. She's asking too many questions. So Raj takes her to, I guess, just another room here. And here's a couple other thugs that are just waiting, I guess, to be used. I don't know, just soldiers in the army here. The three of them dump Lois in a laundry basket, which to me it looks like a trunk or a metal.
Box.
Yeah. But they say, Lois, or the narrator tells us, Lois is forced within a laundry basket. Soiled clothing is tossed upon her bound figure. That just brought nasty images to my mind.
I mean,
just the word soiled.
Yeah.
It's like,
wow. It's one thing to say that dirty clothes.
Dirty laundry, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but you use the term soiled.
Soiled,
and it just opens up a lot of connotations that.
Oh, poor Lois.
Yeah. You immediately start kind of holding back the vomit.
Yeah.
We also learn here that Raji Bey is not the brains of this operation.
Right. He has a boss that he reports to, because he had to clear getting rid of Lois.
Yeah. So. Yeah. He can't make that decision himself.
Asking questions about Greg. Yeah. So no indication who the boss is, name, or anything. Just that there is one. So they dump her in the laundry basket. Yeah. And dump her in a van and take off. They're going to do something with the dirty laundry, I guess. But ching. Yeah, I don't know. Now, somewhere from the time we saw Clark thinking in his office to the time when Lois is dumped in the basket, Clark changes to Superman, because at the time that the van takes off from the building, Superman is on top of probably the Daily Planet, or whatever the name of the paper is right now. I don't think it's Daily Planet yet, is it?
Yeah, it's a Daily Planet.
Okay. So he's on top scouting because he knows something is off, and he sees the van leave. Using his X-ray vision, he sees in the van, in the trunk, at the bottom of the seat, in the trunk is Lois. So obviously now he knows something is up. He follows the van. Before they get too far towards their destination, he does, for the second story in a row, the grab the back bumper, swing under to catch a ride trick on a vehicle. For those of you that haven't listened to the previous episode, he did this with a car that he was wanting to see where the gentleman was going. I don't think that he knew. So this one he was trailing, wanted to know where they were going. This one, it's a little different because he does know that ultimately he wants to get Lois out of the car. So he's wanting to find out where they're going, but he doesn't really give them time because he rescues Lois before they can get to their ultimate destination, which may have given him some sort of clue as to what was going on, and then he could still rescue Lois. So I think he kind of jumped the gun here a little bit, but
well, it's really kind of awesome because he grabs the back bumper, he swings under the car, and then snaps the drive shaft and the brake
And the
rods,
brakes, yeah.
and then swings himself back up to the back of the truck, rips the back door off of it, grabs her out, and then jumps out the back of it.
Of course, the out of control vehicle careens off the nice ocean mountain. No, I guess it's not oceany. I don't know why I thought it was oceany, but the kind of mountain road that they're traveling on and careens off the side. Superman carries Lois's trunk back to the top of the Daily Planet. The two drivers make their way back to, or the two soldiers make their way back to Rajib Bey to let him know, we wrecked the car, but Lois is dead. So it's yes. Kind of a good news, bad news kind of situation they're going to relay to their boss. Top of the Daily Planet, Superman lets Lois go. He runs off, changes back to Clark. With what happened at Rajib Bey's place, Lois, once she is freed, goes to police headquarters and talks to our friend Captain Casey, Sergeant Casey.
I don't remember. They just call him Casey in this
one. Yeah, I forget what his rank is, but it's Officer Casey.
Yeah.
Maybe early on we saw him like once, but then here recently in the last 6 to 8 stories, he is Lois and Clark's police contact. They have just stuck with him, whatever rank Casey, Officer Casey. So he has become now a recurring, other than Perry, maybe the only other recurring character than Lois and Clark. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So she talks to Casey. She says, some. I don't think she necessarily justifies it. She just says she wants to look through the rogues gallery. Boy, that's an old-timey word for it. And so basically she wants to look at all the photographs of all the criminals or people that have been suspected of criminal behavior in the city. Ultimately, she runs through and she sees a picture of the female assistant. Finds out her name is Mary Grogan, which is, has nothing to do with Oriental, Middle Eastern. At least I don't think. I think that's a very American Caucasian name.
Yeah.
And she is dressed as an Oriental female playing in an Eastern or Middle Eastern scam here. So we're starting to see maybe, well, definitely things aren't necessarily what we believe, even in as far as the folks themselves maybe are playing parts they're not from anywhere other than, like I say, Toledo. Not that I'm trying to bash on Toledo. I have nothing against Toledo.
And I like how in that moment, as she's looking at the pictures, we get a thought bubble, so that she's obviously not speaking her thoughts out loud because Casey's in the room with her, right. But because they're not mixing the thought with her speaking out loud. They go ahead and give her a thought bubble, which is the cloud with the little, instead of the tail, it's the little dots.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they still put the text in the parentheses. Yeah, with the quotes and everything around it. So just so it's like, because the word bubbles are still quite cloud-like. They still have a cloud-like quality about them. This is a more cloudy, I guess you could say, but
poofier or
it's and then with the dots leading to the head. For those of us that are used to the modern thought bubble, that's what we're used to seeing. But I guess at the time, it's like they wanted to make sure people knew that she wasn't talking out loud, so they stuck with the same format as far as the parentheses and quotes and all that junk as well.
And I've never looked it up, but I think because of this next scene, this book probably should be a key in Superman.
Yeah, I agree.
We see Lois's mother for the very first time. Now we see her again, camera over the shoulder, like we've been seeing Perry, but eventually they change that. So we can only hope that they eventually change and we get to see a full view of Lois's mother.
And she's one panel, and there's seems to be one specific reason that her mom is in this issue, and it just seems silly to me that they did it. But because of course, what is she doing? What is she doing for her mom?
She's putting on a disguise, and she wants to check her disguise with her mom.
Yeah. So if her mom doesn't recognize her, then obviously nobody else will.
Right.
They introduce her mother just for that.
Just for that one thing. Yeah. But so, we do know now, I would assume that must mean that her mother lives in Metropolis, because she wouldn't have traveled halfway across the country to check this. So mom must live close to wherever Lois is, which then is close to where Lois is going wearing this get-up, because if it were a long way away, it would mess it up. So all of this must be in close proximity to each other.
Yeah, and because it's just that one panel, and because they tell us that we are in Lois's apartment, I got the idea that her mom lives with her.
Lives with her, or at the very least, got to live in the building.
Yeah.
And she called her mom, hey, can you come up here for a minute, down here for a minute? And yeah, so it's like they live real close together. And
of course, her disguise is literally just a different set of clothes.
Yeah,
she didn't even put on glasses.
It's a black, which we know would be the key. That works completely.
That's the infallible disguise. But yeah, she just put on different clothes.
I was reading, what was I reading? Probably, I think it was a Spider-Man book the other night. And somebody made mention of wanting to disguise themselves, but unfortunately they didn't have any Clark Kent glasses on them. So
was it 90s? Was it a Todd McFarlane? Because I feel like I read across that recently.
He might have done it, but no, it's a contemporary Spider-Man. So now Lois goes back to Rajiv Bey's office, the business, the astrology business, and talks to Miss Grogan, or the Oriental. And that's an assumption. It said she was wearing Oriental garb. It didn't say that the individual was Oriental, although, in my defense, the very first panel on this page, I think she is drawn with an attempt at Oriental features, but the subsequent panels where she shows, perhaps not. So I don't know, maybe just a difference in art, or I don't know what happened. But good.
Well, I was just going to say, of course, we're using the word Oriental only because they did in the issue.
Yes, yes.
That was the preferred word back then.
It goes to this whole kind of side issue that all of these individuals are trying to be something they're not. And my contention is, not only are they not that, but they are North American, Caucasian. I mean, they are absolutely not that. As opposed to some sort of plant, individual from that region of the world who is just a bad guy over here. Here, I think they're not even anywhere near what they are portraying. All of it is play acting.
Yeah, and I like to imagine that, because they, we see a lot of their lackeys just in suits, so they're obviously, like organized crime, gangsters.
Right.
So I like to imagine that even Rajad Bey, they've got like this thick New Jersey accent while they're trying to portray this whole Arabian Nights thing, but they're like, hey, let me tell you a future over here.
Yeah, so they're actually from New England, and they're not even disguising their New England accent, but they're coming out in a turban. And
Yeah.
So Lois goes back to the young lady she saw, tells her, hey, I know you're this Miss Grogan. I know what you're wanted for. I think I know what you're doing. And the woman's like, oh, okay, well, you got me. What do you want? And she says, well, I need you to do me a favor, or no, she doesn't say. She threatens the woman. Yeah. She says, basically, you do this for me, or I will tell everybody that you're here. And so the girl asked, well, what do you want? And basically, Lois just said, hey, why don't you go on a vacation and introduce me to your boss, and tell him I'm a good replacement while you're on vacation. So that happens. And of course, Rajib is like, I don't know you from Adam. Why should I? And the girl is like, oh, no, no, no. We were in the joint together. So
Yeah.
we're two bad guys that
Yeah.
served at the same time. So of course you can trust her. And I'm like, wait, that is the absolute reason to not trust them, because
Right.
if you're just as crooked as she is, yeah. Anyways, I guess what among thieves, honor among thieves. It's like, so if
And
you did time and you did time, that means because I trust A, I can trust B.
Yeah, that means you're aces.
Yeah. So that's all the proof that there is.
Right. Yeah,
for him,
need.
She served with me in prison, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah, you got the job.
That's all he needs. And they
It's like,
do a
dude.
weird, this writing trope here where kind of like on a TV show when somebody is on the phone and you can't hear the other side of the conversation. So the person on screen is kind of repeating what the person on the, so rather than, because, okay, so Lois tells the woman, all right, just resign from your job, give it to me, and I won't turn you in. And so the very next panel, Lois and the woman are there with Rajid Bey, and he is saying, what's that, Mary? You're leaving the city for a while and want this girl to take your place while you're gone? There's no reason at this point not to have her say, hey, boss, I'm leaving for a while. I want her to take my place.
Yeah. Why have him say that?
Yeah. There's no, it's a weird, because they're not saving space. They're not saving time. I don't know. I thought that was kind of a weird.
Yeah. That is kind of weird. I don't know why. Yeah. It's like, and she's in the scene.
Yeah.
I mean, they drew her. So it's like, well, if she's there, why not just have her say that instead? Yeah.
Maybe the position of the word bubbles, maybe that, I don't know, that kind of threw them off, because they would have had to stack some word bubbles there.
Yeah, I was going to say, because all three of them talk.
Yeah.
So I guess rather than having Mary talk twice and maybe confuse things, they had him talk and her talk. Yeah. So, so she does. Mary takes off, and Lois starts scoping things out. She wants to get more information on Rajib. So she's looking around. She finds a locked file cabinet. Well, no, okay. It is locked, but she picks it, and she finds some information about important or prominent government officials. So she takes it. It's like, oh, well, this is the proof I'm after. So she keeps it. We see Clark ringing the doorbell to get in, and he is thinking Bubbles, Dot's thinking, but his thoughts are in parentheses also. So this whole thing they have decided is how they're going to relay thought as opposed to vocal, is do all of this. Eventually it gets shortened, like Steven was saying, until the bubbles are a little different, and then the connection between the individual and the bubble really tells us what it is. If the art is drawn, or not the art, I guess maybe that's the letterer. I don't know who draws the bubble, but if the bubble is drawn correctly. Now, I will say, on occasion, I have seen that there is no difference in the kind of bubble, and you have to kind of figure out which it is. I mean, if you even care to know for sure. A lot of times it doesn't matter per se if it's thought or spoken. It's just an info dump for the reader.
Yeah.
And, it's like, well, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so.
And I love that Clark, because he's there because he's been looking for Lois. He knows that she's obviously going to do something to get herself in trouble. And so he's checking there because he can't find her anywhere else. And he just assumes that she's a prisoner. She's gotten herself kidnapped. That's where Lois and Clark are at this point, is that Clark is just like resigned himself to the fact that Lois has been kidnapped. That's just,
if I can't quickly find her, she's into something that she's into some kind of trouble. And because the last we knew, he left her on the roof of the Daily Planet there in a laundry basket. Well, she was climbing out when we saw her, but that was the last place. So it's like, it's kind of a stretch to assume that she is doing anything. It's like, well, the last time I saw her, you had been kidnapped and you had been rescued and released, and so if I can't find you, I know you must be into trouble.
He knows her too well. He's
like, wow.
She's not just going to give a silly kidnapping and attempted murder is not going to get her to stop.
Right? No. She hasn't succumbed to the vapors because of what happened earlier in the day, and is passed out at her apartment, which we know she went to. Yeah. It's like, no, I don't know where she is, so she must be in trouble. I've got to find her. Yeah. So, it's kind of like whenever, Lassie comes running up barking, there's trouble, because that's the only time they have Lassie do that. So, yeah. So she is there. Clark comes in. I guess he's just given entry by somebody and decides to... somehow, she is inside, he is outside. Then they are in the same room together. There's one panel in between that, but it's just of Lois. So it's like... So somehow, she was in there searching around. She found some stuff. Then we cut to Clark, and he's wanting to get into the building, so he's ringing the doorbell, thinking something. We see Lois. She heard the doorbell, so she knows, I need to stop what I'm doing. Somebody's about to come in. And I guess maybe she is the one, because she is the greeter, but Raj has been the greeter up to now, not the female companion. So
he must be at lunch.
Yeah, maybe Raj went on vacation with the Mary. Maybe they're a couple, and they both went. I'll have to watch and see if we see Raj again. But
he does come back. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So she must let Clark in, and they're a little. I guess Clark doesn't recognize her, does he?
No, he sees right through her disguise.
Yeah, she's got a really good disguise on, and she treats him like another customer.
Yeah. He pretends to not recognize her, but he
but he does recognize this disguise. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Why not just okay.
I don't know.
To move this story. Yeah. It's okay. So she goes and tells Rajiv Bey that somebody is here to see him, and it's the Daily Planet reporter named Clark Kent. I can tell you plenty about it, because if he's going to do a reading, he's got to have information. Well, Lois knows, which would be suspicious to me, because it's like, if you're just a street hustler that did time with Mary, how do you know anything about this high-profile news reporter that's doing all these Superman stories?
So is that prison connections?
I don't know. So they confront each other, Rajiv and Clark. Rajiv immediately drops that, I know you're Clark Kent. So it's an adversarial conversation from the get-go here. But he plays it off, Rajiv does. And Clark plays that he's genuinely there for a reading. He's there as Clark Kent, but not Clark Kent the reporter. He's there as Clark Kent dude that is having girl problems.
Yeah.
And he presents his genuine problem to Rajiv about the fact that he likes somebody and she keeps blowing him off and won't give him the time of day and whatever. What do I need to do to gain her interest?
And he's doing that because he knows that Lois is listening. He thinks it's funny.
Well, and perhaps he is also telling her something, I think, that he doesn't think she knows. Which it could be. She hasn't thought about it like that because he's always irritating her, so she's never thought beyond that. But she hears him, and she apparently doesn't make the connection that he's talking about her. Nope. It must be another girl. So
she just thinks he's a loser.
Yeah, talking about his personal problems. What a loser.
Yeah.
Which is like, isn't that what everybody does with that's what people are coming there for.
Yeah.
So Rajiv tries to give Clark some advice, or doesn't try. He gives Clark some advice, which all of us out here reading this were like, duh. With what Clark says, with what Rajiv says, it's like, well, everybody knows that. You're not, there are no secrets there. It's, As he's leaving, though, he hands Lois money for the reading, and in the interaction, she gives Clark the papers that she stole from the cabinet, and he doesn't. He is so chill about it that he doesn't necessarily pay attention to what is happening. He immediately plays along.
Yep.
Here's this woman that he doesn't know that has just given him some papers in some astrologer's office that he is suspicious about to begin with.
Because he knows it's Lois.
Oh no, that's right. Yeah, he recognized Lois. So he does realize she is trying to pass something.
Yeah.
Yeah. She just doesn't know that he knows that she knows. Yeah.
But he's not dumb enough to go, "What? What's this? What did you give me?"
Well, see that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Papers? Did you give? Should I look at these right now?
Yeah, really. So now, as Clark's leaving for the second time in the vicinity of this astrologer's place, he physically bumps into someone else. So people who deal with astrologers are just brash, unrefined kind of people. They just knock into people all the time. So this dude, let's see. Does he ever? I don't see him using his name here. There's a lot of words here coming up. One of these panels is like 75-80% word bubble. It's Claremontian in proportions.
I don't think they give this guy a name. They just describe him as a heavy-set, beetle-browed man. Whatever.
Is
that
this
means.
the boss?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Don't think so. Okay, he's just another lackey.
Because let's just take a moment and scan through.
Well, he questions this new girl, being that Lois is playing the part of, and then he asks for the information that Rajib has gotten previously from the War Department dude. I bet he's the boss.
Yeah, he might be the boss. They don't come out and say it, but it sounds like
the dude that Rajib called on the phone to clear what to do with Lois, because he's basically as the thief, the things that he has stolen, which is information, he is giving to this person, and I can't imagine you would just do that to somebody else in the mob. They have to have some kind of weight, or you wouldn't give them your booty that you have gotten for.
Yeah, and there is a moment here because Lois is eavesdropping as
there's Raj.
They're talking. Raj grabs her, and we find out that he can speak when he says, "Caught the new girl snooping, boss," which I at first assumed he was directing that toward Rajib Bey, but he's kind of handing her to the other guy. So
it could be boss, could be him. Yeah. So now Lois is definitely in trouble. She's caught
again.
Yeah. So now the gentleman that came in, who is dressed all in green with a nifty little green derby on, starts checking around, and he's like, "Oh, hey, wait a minute. There's some papers here that should be here that are missing. I bet she had something to do with it." She says, "Well, I don't have them." And Rajib is like, "Well, that's okay. You can say whatever you want. I'll get the truth out of you."
And there's something, because, all right, so she's got this disguise on, right? That not even her mother can recognize her.
Right.
Clark recognizes her right away, but her mother doesn't. And nobody else seems to recognize her. But the moment that Raj shows up, grabs her, hands her over to the boss, for some reason, nothing about her has changed, except for maybe, that little hat thing. She's still wearing that. Nothing about her has changed. And yet Rajib Bey immediately, she's got a disguise on. That's Lois Lane.
Now he recognizes
her. That didn't make any sense.
So Lois Lane, missing papers. Something's up. He does the whammy with, here though, you talked about the big, here he doesn't have the big eyes. He does the other thing, which is the squint and concentrate. And I said there were no like electrical bolts, but there is kind of a thing past, the I'm watching you kind of drawing here. And she's hypnotized. That's it. She tells him whatever he wants to know. "What did you do with the papers?" "I gave them to the reporter Clark Kent." Logan Misiak, and Logan, I apologize if I've mispronounced that, said, when Superman is done right, he's the greatest superhero, period. Can't necessarily argue with that. I mean, he is.
I can agree with that. I think the depends on what each of us consider is Superman done right.
Well, Superman started most of it. He didn't necessarily, I don't think, start it all. I think you could argue, but he started most of it. So if he is the progenitor of most superheroes, then chances are anything that we think of as what a superhero does, chances are Superman did it first, way back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever we're looking for. But he is the blank man in the room, smartest, strongest, best looking, whatever you need him to be. So yeah, it's hard to argue that for sure. So they gave Lois the whammy. She told him that Clark had been there. She gave the papers she stole to Clark. Next thing we see is her leaving. Shortly after, Lois departs from Rajiv Bey's establishment alone, it tells us. And the narration kind of did something with the type there, so to highlight the word alone. So we see a panel of her walking, and then another narration panel. Arriving at the Daily Planet, she seeks out Clark. And we see her confronting Clark. I believe a girl at Rajiv Bey's place gave you some papers. They're for me. So she gave them to Clark, and now she's going back to reclaim them. When she gave them to Clark, she wasn't her, right? She was in disguise. But now that she wants them, it is her. She's not in disguise.
It's like she's still trying to play up the fact that the girl.
Right, it wasn't her. Yeah, right. And Clark doesn't know this.
Yeah.
Wait here, I'll get them, Clark says. And then we see that, that's pretty straightforward. She just comes in and says, hey, I think somebody gave you something that is supposed to be for me. And he's like, oh, yeah, I think they did. Hang on. Now, though, as he's getting the papers, he's thinking, these papers indicate that Rajiv Bey is involved in a great spy ring. I wonder what she's going to do with it. She's going to write an article, Clark.
Yeah.
Why is that suspicious? That
right.
You were given some kind of secondhand information. And it's like, isn't that what you guys do? Now, this is funny for a couple reasons. Here you are, he's handing the papers over. Well, as he's handing the papers over, apparently Lois carries a sidearm in her purse. Or at least she was given one by Rajiv Bey. Because she pulls it out and she shoots Clark. Okay? My only assumption can be that she must have been told to get the papers and kill Clark, because she doesn't shoot him in the leg or shoulder. She doesn't gut shoot him.
Nope.
She shoots him in the face.
In the face. That's hardcore.
From less than 6 feet away.
Yeah.
She would never have forgotten this for the rest of her life if she had actually accomplished this.
Right.
I don't care if she's hypnotized or not. I would think the vision of someone's skull exploding before your eyes would be something that would leave a mark. But fortunately, of course, it's Superman, and it just bounces right off. And they show it. I like the panel. It's a nice headshot, and it shows the bullet coming into his face and then ricocheting off.
Yeah.
And he is... He is surprised. Can she have guessed I'm Superman and this is a test of the imperviousness of my skin? Really, Clark? That's... Okay. No, that glazed look in her eyes. She's hypnotized. Rajiv Bey sent her here in a trance to kill me. And the narrator tells us the bullet ricochets off Clark's skin, leaving him unharmed. But... okay, first of all, let's take this apart a little bit. I understand that Lois is hypnotized, but the results of the hypnotism are so strong that she was able to take a gun and shoot this man that she has spent most all days with for several years now in the face to get these papers. Without hesitation. It's just, yes, this is what I'll do with you. Now, on the other hand, we have Clark that's like, Oh, look, she just must be playing. That's why she
Yeah.
shot me in the face. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe she's not. It's like, dog. I mean, if someone is going to shoot you in the head, I would say they are serious from beginning to end.
Yeah.
There's no other possibility. It's not accidental that somebody pulls out a handgun out of their purse and aims it at your head and pulls that is not. There's no. Oh, well, maybe they meant. No, they meant exactly what happened. So
Which speaks to their what they thought hypnotism was back then. That you could literally the only way you could hypnotize someone into shooting someone else in the face is if that person already wanted to shoot that person in the face. I
but
don't
it
think
would take much more than hypnotism, though.
right. Yeah,
It would take a whole different kind of programming. Just
exactly.
hypnotism isn't. Yeah.
Exactly. But yet here all he does is bzz, stare into her
Yep.
eyes and giving her just and yeah, Lois Clark's reaction is let's say for a second that it really was Lois is not hypnotized. She's decided that she thinks that Clark is Superman. The fact that she would test her theory by shooting him point blank in the face. I mean, if I was Clark at that point, I'd be like, all right, bitch, be crazy.
No doubt. We are done.
Yeah.
This is it.
And then the narration box, the fact that they have to that the writers felt that they have to tell us. We know he's Superman. As the reader,
Yeah,
we know that bullets bounce off his skin. We can see the bullet bouncing off his skin, and yet they have to double down and tell us, oh, by the way, the bullet bounced off his skin.
Tell us what we saw.
Yeah.
It's like I know what I saw.
Yeah.
I want to add too. I like what they've been doing with the narration, in that the narration is having its own panels.
Yeah.
I like the way that looks, and I like the way it feels. Nowadays, narration will be in a box, or it'll be a mini box that's part of the panel. But here, the narration is its own panel, solid colored text inside. I like the feel of that as we're going through.
Yeah.
So Clark goes up to Lois after he has, I don't know, I guess disarmed her. I don't know what's happened in the interim. We don't see. But he acts as though he is the one that has hypnotized Lois, because he asks her what is going on and she willingly tells him. So, I mean, all of a sudden he is the one in control of the effects of the hypnotism, not the person who actually did it, because I would think only they could elicit the truth from someone that they hypnotized, not someone else, because so the command structure, I think, is off here.
Well, I know that at some point the idea behind Superman's powers, and I don't know if it ends up being a golden age thing or a silver age thing, is that every attribute about Superman is super. So I think there's even an episode of Seinfeld where Jerry, they make a joke out of it where everything, he's super strong, he's super fast, so his mental ability is super as well. And so because they use the words that he probes her mind.
Probes her mind.
And the joke on the episode of Seinfeld is that because Jerry and George get kind of into a quick argument about Superman's sense of humor. And Jerry's idea is that, well, everything else is about him is super. He should have a super sense of humor. And George says, I've never heard him say anything funny. But
that's not true. He says funny stuff all the time.
Yeah, I just got to read some of these Golden Age stories. But I read this as Superman has his own super mental abilities that we just haven't really seen yet. Okay. And so he's able to probe into her mind and take over this. He just like it's something that you can just take over from somebody else.
Right, yeah, you take control of this effect, and and for those of you that are watching, this is Aubrey that has decided that she is now interested in what I'm doing.
Is her tail bent, or does she have a really short tail?
No, she has a bobtail.
Oh, okay.
She was born that way. It's about
right.
For her body size, it's probably about a quarter of what it should be.
All right.
Never affected her though. I mean, she hops and runs around just fine and everything. Whereas it's interesting you should mention that, because her brother has probably the longest tail I have ever seen, but he is also by weight one of the biggest cats I have ever seen. So I guess that's the way that works.
Are they from the same litter?
Yes.
So it's like took what was hers,
right.
Gave it to him.
He got part of her tail. She was just left with a little bit. Yeah.
That's funny.
So he asks Lois what's going on, and she says a new bombing mechanism. Carter, Rajib Bey, their men are about to raid the safe of the Ordnance Department for its plans. So now the story has come full circle. She said that she recognized the dude that initially bumped into Clark in the third panel of the story worked in the Ordnance Department. So now we see that Rajib Carter. Is Carter that dude's name?
I guess he's the dude in the green hat.
Yeah, that must be Carter. Okay. So, but they are not the ones that are at the Ordnance Department. Maybe the guys at the Ordnance Department are the two soldiers that put her in the laundry basket and were driving her off somewhere. But we cut there, and we're told, and then we see that the bad guys are wearing, they're wearing not just gas masks, but their hands aren't covered, but it almost looks like they're in some sort of protective gear, but just the suit. They have suits and ties on, but their head is completely covered by what they're calling a gas mask. It's not just a mask.
Yeah.
So they're there, and one of them is holding, to me, it looks like the thing that you use to smoke bees with. You light a fire in it and you puff out the smoke, and it looks like that. Now, I have also seen at some point blowtorches were designed with the same sort of design. But to me, when I see this, it's the beekeeper's smoke gun that they anesthetize or dull bees with, is what it looks like.
That's exactly what I thought it was.
Okay, now, having said that, it is a gas gun of some sort. Now, I automatically think back to in DC in the Golden Age is not, was it Sandman? It wasn't. What was it? Sandman that ran around gassing people with the mask on, putting them to sleep. Close to the same time. He might not have started yet, but that gas gun looked completely different than this. His looked more like just a pistol,
right?
Whereas this looks like some sort of industrial thing. So they've gassed the people in the office here. We cut to Superman, who is running to the rescue. Literally, he's in the sky, but it looks like he's running. And now he's diving towards the War Department building in Washington, D.C., I presume is where the War Department would be. And
yeah, I mean, that almost looks like the Washington Monument maybe in the background.
Maybe and maybe that's what they're telling us, is that this is D.C. that he's in, because the Washington Monument is there. He breaks through... I don't know that he breaks through. He gets through a big steel bolted door. Apparently it wasn't shut because he doesn't destroy it or anything. Goes in, tells us the guards overcome by gas. Fortunately, the gas has no effect on me. It looks as though I've come... It looks as though, T-H-O. It looks as though I've come not a minute too soon. He runs up on one of the soldiers. They recognize him. Now, this... I went into a long thing last episode about this, not recognizing this individual by this point. Here is a bad guy. He is a bad guy that is not even in the same city that Superman is in. Now, he may be from the same city. We don't know. But right now, I would presume that he's not from Metropolis. Okay. But he recognizes Superman. If they're in DC, then this is a DC thug that has been hired. And he recognizes Superman from whatever cities away that Superman didn't get to DC very often. Although here, before too long, he probably will start showing up in DC more often because of world events. But needless to say, the dude recognizes it, calls him by name, Superman. See, says, keep back or you'll regret it. If anyone around here is going to regret anything, Superman says, it's going to be you. And the bad guy says, I warned you, and he tries to gas him. Now, it looks like gas to me. The guards in this building have been gassed. They've been knocked out by gas. The narrator tells us the man of tomorrow grips the metal blowtorch then.
Yeah.
And we see him crushing it. So I don't know. Like I said, I have seen blowtorches that were designed with this shape. And I've seen them used before in maybe comic books. I don't know if I've ever seen one in real life shaped like this. But so everything is gassing except when the narrator tells us that Superman has it, and he's calling it a blowtorch.
Yeah.
So Superman disarms him, crushes the weapon. Now that's not enough. You know, they have these suits. They manage to get close enough to the building with their gas gun to gas the people inside. Nobody has said anything. There's no backups to anything. The War Department building, okay, kind of an important place right now in Washington, D.C. These dudes break in. They manage to gas people. Superman defeats the gas gun, but either one of them or someone else has a machine gun and tries to take out Superman. So 2 or more of these very interestingly dressed people have gotten close enough with gas guns and machine guns to break into the War Department building at not our involvement, but during World War II. So I would presume that things were maybe a little bit heightened right now as far as security and keeping your eyes open and everything, but not here today. No. So, of course, Superman survives the machine gun assault. He grabs the guys and throws them aside, goes over to the safe, rips the door off the safe, and then okay. So he rips the door off the safe. Then he goes and gets the bad guys, takes their mask off, exposing them to the gas. But then he throws them in the safe and closes the door behind them, kind of locking them in the safe. So I guess their brief exposure to the gas was enough to knock them out too. But then he didn't leave them unconscious. He threw them in the safe and locked the safe back up so they couldn't get away. He triggers a burglar alarm, knowing that the police will come. Streaks back to Metropolis, I presume, is where Raj is. He busts past Raj to talk to Rajiv Bey, and now who I'm going to call Carter. It's the only other name that's been given, and this is the only other person that we have seen. So I think it's pretty easy to presume that this is Carter.
Yeah.
So he confronts the two of them, Superman does. Now here, Rajiv tries to whammy Superman with the big eyes. His eyes get and he's drawn that way. Before he squinted at Lois, I guess because he needed just a little bit of the juice to get her. Yeah. Here they don't say anything about recognizing him as Superman. So other than maybe the difference between male and female, he decides that he needs more juice because he's dealing with a male. So he opens his eyes up, lets the full juice come out instead of just a little juice with the squinted eyes. Big eyes, stand still, don't move. And Superman kind of goes rigid, messing with him. And then he's like, oh, no, I'm kidding. And he runs up and grabs him. It didn't affect him at all. He played him. I don't know why. I guess to increase the tension for us readers, it's like, oh no, did it work?
Yeah.
So he grabs the two of them, flies off with them, jumps away with them to take them to the police department.
He's flying.
Yeah. Along the way, he's telling them, okay, now you're going to confess or I'm going to drop you. And by the time they get to where they're going, they have agreed. As soon as you put us down, we'll confess. Because he hands him over to the police, and Superman tells the police they'll explain to you why they deserve arrest. And if they don't, I'll be back. So he pulls the Arnold on him. I'll be back.
Yeah.
Last panel is the between Lois and Clark and submitting an article to the paper and who gets the credit and everything like that. Snoozing on the job, eh? While I got a scoop. Read all about it in the Planet. So apparently Clark turned this one in.
Yeah.
And Lois is back in the outfit that she left her mom in, not the Oriental coat girl from Rajiv's. So she went home and changed.
She after she was hypnotized, because she's in the Oriental garb, she's hypnotized, but then when she enters the Daily Planet and shoots Clark in the face, she's back in her regular clothes.
Oh, was she wearing this already? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's like, as part of her hypnosis, they had her dress back up.
She reverted like Superman does. She had two outfits. Yeah. So
there's a couple of moments that I wanted to point out real quick that I just cracked up over. If we go back to page 3, after Lois is thrown into the laundry basket with the soiled laundry, and it's the bottom corner panel with the laundry truck. So they're driving off with her, and the one driver says, "Where shall we dump her? In the river or the lake?" And the other guy says, "Maybe at the lake. We've been using the river too much lately. It's getting monotonous." He's bored of throwing people into the river to die.
Going to the river, yeah. So we'll use the lake. Okay, yeah.
I now have a cat joining me.
Okay.
Bluey, she loves me.
He's got a buddy too. Now look over here. Yeah, okay.
Here, why don't you just go? Say hi. Hi. Now go.
Hey.
And then the other one I wanted to point out was after Superman rescues her from the laundry truck, and he jumps up to the Daily Planet, to the roof of the Daily Planet with the laundry basket, and Lois is inside. It almost seems as if he contemplates just leaving her in the basket for now, because he's saying that the most amazing thing about this whole experience is that for once, Lois is where she can't venture into further mischief. I'm going to read that again because the cat bumped against the mic, and I'm sure that made a noise. And the most amazing thing about this whole experience is that for once, Lois is where she can't venture into further mischief in this basket, but it's too good to last. So I think that what he's saying there is, you know what, maybe I should just leave her in the basket until this whole adventure is over to keep her out of danger. And that then he's like, no, I'll let her out.
Certainly would have changed the complexion of the story if he'd have done that.
Yeah. But this was of the 3 stories we've read so far in this issue, this is probably my second favorite.
Okay.
Invisible Luther would be number 1. This would be number 2, and then last week's the talent agency fraud would be number 3 at this point. And I haven't read the 4th one, so I don't know where that one's going to stack.
Yeah, no, I haven't read it either. Bite me. Okay. We ready? Are you done with the ass in your face? Yeah, that's pretty standard cat trait. Dogs don't do that as much.
No, and it's supposed to mean that the cat likes you and trusts you.
Trust you that you're You're not going after that ass. That's
Like,
yeah. Okay.
great. Thank you.
Yeah.
for putting
Yeah.
it
Really.
right in my
I'm
face.
glad you like me.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's pretty much everything I can think to say at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we covered it. I felt like there was one other thing I was going to point out, and I can't remember what it is. Um, I, I, I did find the whole thing with the guy in the green hat. That, I mean, obviously that slipped past editorial. The fact that I guess his name was Carter.
Yeah. It's kind of
But
a sideways kind of reference. I mean, we don't know for sure, and they never used it other than in that one
yeah,
word balloon in that one panel. So it's
yep,
like,
yeah. So, but oh, I remember what it was because I'm looking at that page where she says the name Carter. When Superman arrives at the War Department or the Ordnance Department, and he finds that the door is bolted on the other side, he said he says something really weird. I don't quite understand. So the door has been bolted on the other side. That's just an added incentive. Incentive to what? Break it
to
open?
break the door, I guess. Which it doesn't show really that he does. He just
Yeah,
forces it open. I
yeah,
mean, he doesn't super anything that we can tell. He doesn't destroy anything. Not like he did the safe last
yeah,
episode. It's
yeah. He just puts his shoulder into it and it opens. But
yeah,
I don't know. That was a weird because sometimes we get a lot of moments where Superman is cracking wise. That's
right.
one of the things about Superman in the Golden Age that a lot of you don't hear a lot about, that he was a wisecracker. He was a dick, and I don't know if this was supposed to be a moment of cracking wise, like it's like this just gives me more of an incentive to get in there and kick some ass, or just I felt that was a weird line. That's just an added incentive, like he's really excited to be able to force the door open. I
Right,
don't know.
right.
It was weird, but yeah. How about okay? So on your end, with the 3 stories from Superman number 10 so far, where would you place this one?
Um, Actually, I think that I like this one better even than the Invisible Luther,
Okay.
because that was I this one was more entertaining to me. So this would be
Yeah.
number one of the 3, Luther second, and the torn safe story planking off the top of the door third. And if you guys don't get that reference, listen back to the previous episode, and we went on about it for several minutes. It's
Yeah.
an awesome panel if you ever see it. But
Yeah. If I was gonna pick my favorite moment at all 3 of these stories,
oh yeah,
him planking off the
yeah,
molding of the door is the best.
that is awesome.
It's the best thing I've seen him do in a while.
It's truly unlike, I think, anything else we've really seen him do
Yeah.
that is believable that a regular person can't do. I mean,
Yep.
jumping for miles and X-ray vision and no. He can frickin' plank with one arm off the top of a door frame. It was
Yeah.
it was something.
Yeah, and I don't want to harp on what we've already covered in the previous episode, but again, it's one of those things that it makes perfect sense for his superpowers.
Yep.
And like you said, it's not anything we've ever seen before, but seeing it, it's like, oh yeah, he could do that, couldn't
Yeah,
he?
of course he could do that. Yeah.
And then the other half of my brain is just going, there's no way that would allow would allow that much weight, because it's as far as the weight being distributed to that molding, I'm assuming it would be more than just his
No,
225 or whatever. It's got to be because of I don't know, leverage or the way he's hanging there.
Well, I think it would be only the weight of his body, but it would only be in, it would be displaced this much, the fingers and the half of his. So you're looking at, 8 or 10 maybe square inches of 220 pounds, and whatever that weight force multiplier would work out to be per square inch of force. So yeah,
to me it would like having the same effect of sticking a crowbar in there and then yanking on the crowbar.
Sure.
The way he's hanging there, it would yeah. But a lot of fun stuff though in this issue with the hypnotizing and Lois shooting Clark in the face.
Face, man.
That
wow.
And the panel with the bullet bouncing off his cheek, because he does look kind of pissed off, right? There's almost, you almost look at that and at first glance it almost looks like he's bored.
Right, yeah.
There's
another
bullet bouncing off of my face.
You're gonna shoot me in the face.
But at the same time, he almost looks like, did she just shoot me in the face? Like he's trying to hold himself back from reaching out and smacking her.
Yeah.
But that might be the panel, my favorite panel of this.
For this issue.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair.
But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this one.
Okay. Well, everybody out there in real world land, thanks for watching along as we recorded. For everyone listening to the episode, want to thank you for listening. And remember, till next week, I'm Ed, that's Steven, and this has been the Superman Super Show. Ciao.
Bye. Let me save this, and then I want to share my screen. Come on, save. Here we go. There we go. It's saving. That recording was an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's about what all of them are averaging.
Yeah. People getting their money's worth.
Yep.
So here, let me this would be a little bonus thing for the people who watch. Okay, so we're looking at the page where Clark gets shot in the face. Look at this previous panel, though, with the wall behind Lois. It's like there's a sign, press room and editorial room.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, my brain is trying to figure out what I'm looking at here. It's like, are those supposed to be two different doors next to each other and they just didn't fill in the lines? Or should we see an arrow saying the press room is that way and the editorial room is that way? And
right.
I find that they could have just left that blank. They could have left that wall blank.
Right. Just not written anything on it.
Yeah. But since they wrote that on there, I can't stop looking at that going, what are they trying to tell us there? What is that exactly what does that represent? Somebody needs to tell me because it's driving me crazy. I'm ignoring the fact that Lois is shooting Clark in the face with a gun.
Right. That is no longer the important part.
I can't stop looking at those two things. I don't know what they mean. But yeah. If you watching, you want to chime in on just that panel, please do. I'm going to stop sharing. Stop. In the name of love. So you know that game where, somebody says stop and then there's a song and there are different songs that you can take from that. What's your go-to? Do you have a go-to? Stop, and then where do you start singing?
In the Name of Love.
I'm usually stop, collaborate, and listen. Ice is back with
Okay.
the invention. And I feel like there's two or three others. I can't think of what they are off the top of my head. So when I got this shirt yesterday, I also got a Spider-Man shirt, and it's a Todd McFarlane Spider-Man, and it's not like a it's a Spider-Man from within the pages, not a cover. And it's one of those where he's just like swinging around, and there's a little thing on it that says, "With great power comes great responsibility." But I was wearing it last night, and I was telling my wife, I said, "This is a Todd McFarlane Spider-Man," and she goes, "Okay, am I supposed to know that name?" I said, "This is what made Todd McFarlane famous, is Spider-Man, and this is a representation." She goes, "What's that all over?" I said, "Those are the webs. Those are his webs that he's swinging from. Nobody drew the webs like that until he did."
Mm-hmm.
And then I was explaining to her, I said, Todd McFarlane is one of the guys that in the 90s, he got super famous doing Spider-Man. Some of the other guys working for Marvel got super famous doing other characters, and they went to Marvel and they said, "Look, we're making you lots of money, pay us more." And Marvel was like, "No, what are you going to do about it?" And they said, "Oh, we're going to go start our own comic book company."
Yeah.
And they
Well,
did.
we'll leave. Yep.
So, and she was just like, "Okay."
Yeah. And that's just the thing. There's no way to truly explain the impact of 1992 comic books to anybody that was not old enough to be cognizant then of what was going on.
Yeah.
Anybody born since then, you can tell them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I bet that would." No, you have no idea. I mean, you do. That's just like the impact of Watchmen, the impact of Dark Knight, the impact of Killing Joke. You can read it now, and you can assess the story.
Yep.
You can think that you know what it was like based on what you know of the time. But unless you lived it, you really don't know. I have no idea why the Beatles coming over here to America were such a big thing. But you had women taking off their underwear, throwing it at them. I cannot fathom that. But, it's that's what occurred. And those women, if I were to meet one today, they could never explain to me sufficiently why that was a thing to do. Why did you do that? What,
and it's funny too, because I don't remember the context. I don't remember the podcast. I just recently, I was listening to a podcast, and the subject of, it was a series about Star Wars, the first movie, about how, it was kind of like a behind the scenes, how Star Wars got made kind of thing.
Mhm.
And the final episode was the guy interviewing an author who wrote a biography on George Lucas. And they were talking about Star Wars. And one of the things they were talking about was, it's like there were sci-fi movies at the time that Star Wars came out, obviously. But it's like nobody had done anything like Star Wars. You had Flash Gordon, you had Buck Rogers, you had stuff like that way back in the day. And then they just stopped making movies like that. And then George Lucas comes along and he makes Star Wars. And, it's like they had Planet of the Apes. They had 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's like sci-fi at that point had almost become kind of artsy and weird. Mm-hmm. And then, so it was like, capturing lightning in a bottle type of thing. And then the guy compared it to the Beatles. And he said, Star Wars, there just wasn't anything like that at the time. So when Star Wars came out, people were seeing something they hadn't seen before. He goes, it's the same with the Beatles. Rock and roll in America sucked. And the Beatles came along and people were like, holy crap, rock and roll is good shit. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to consider Star Wars was what we would consider now a B movie.
Yeah.
And to try to save it, he called in favors and got Alec Guinness, of all people, to be in the movie. That was the only saving grace. There was no one else. Well, James Earl, but that was voice.
Yeah.
Alec Guinness was the linchpin of the movie to make it palatable to movie goers.
And the thing that I've heard on, I've read it in various sources and I've heard it from different podcasts. It's like he had Star Wars pretty much all put together. Not all the effect shots were in there quite yet. He was showing it to like a lot of his director friends, there was a whole group, Francis Ford Coppola, Brian Deming, then of course, Steven Spielberg, and everybody except Steven Spielberg were like, this is stupid. What is this? You've got a bunch of text at the beginning. That's dumb. This is a dumb movie. Don't make this movie. Stop going forward. And the one thing that brought a lot of people around was the John Williams score. It's like there was something about that music once it was put in the movie that people were like, oh, it's like that's the one thing that turned it around for a lot of people who had watched it before it was done, before there was music, and then once the music was put in, it's like that. It sealed the deal. It was the missing ingredient that made it even more special. But I always think of there's an episode of that 70s show where they all go see Star Wars for the first time.
Okay.
And I think it's I feel like it's a scene where, did you ever watch that 70s show?
I've seen a couple episodes. Yeah.
The Ashton Kutcher character, who is kind of an idiot. I think he went to see it before the rest of them, for the rest of the kids. He went to see it by himself. And it's either his scene or it's when the dad goes to see it. Cause I know that when the dad goes to see it in the theater, he's just like shaking his head, those stupid aliens and spaceships. And then something explodes on screen. You don't see it, but you hear boom. And then this light, and they went, whoa. And at that moment on, it's like, this is the best movie I've ever seen.
Okay.
And
yeah, it's interesting, the story of what that was and now what it has turned out to be.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I've been listening to a guy. So I listened to a podcast a while back called Hysteria. There was a small town somewhere in America where all the a group of teenage girls who they all went to the same school, but they weren't all friends. They didn't hang out. They weren't all like one member, like all members of the volleyball team or all members. But suddenly these girls started having these like almost Tourette-like things happening where they would just jerk and shout and twitch and blah, 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 blah. And it was basically chalked up to like hysteria, right? That's the name of the podcast, Hysteria.
Okay.
And so I listened to it and I thought it was pretty good. And then I run across a podcast about the show Cops called Running from Cops. And it's like, oh, that's pretty good too. And I realized it was the same guy that hosted both. And so I started looking into some of the other stuff he had done. And there's a podcast called Missing Richard Simmons, which, do you remember back in like 2015, 2014, 2013, Richard Simmons just kind of falling off the map and just disappearing? And so it was about that. And it was, it was no big deal. He just sounds like he just kind of didn't want to.
Got tired of it.
Yeah. He just got tired of being on all the time. Right.
Right.
But he also did a podcast called 9/12, which is like 9/11 happened and then America changed. And so from 9/12 onward, it was really good. And then I have the only other one he's done that I haven't listened to yet that's in my queue. It's called Y2K. So that should be kind of fun.
Okay.
But those are some stuff I've been listening to that I've been enjoying.
Cool beans.
You got any podcast recommendations?
The only new stuff that I really ever run into are comic book podcasts, because I don't really search out. I have so many comic book podcasts that I try to keep up with that my queue is full. I often drop episodes of shows that I want to listen to just because I don't want a freaking huge queue on my iPad waiting for me to listen. Makes me feel bad. I do. I get under pressure because it's like, oh, I want to listen to this that just came out, but I have these other 40 shows that are each over an hour that I need to listen to first. And I don't need that kind of pressure, man.
Well, see, and I'm almost the opposite. I feel weird if I don't have a bunch of stuff in my queue waiting to listen to, and I'll spend like an hour just going through and browsing and finding stuff. And I'm like, that looks interesting. Download all the episodes, stick it in my queue. And then I get to, so I've got all these episodes in my queue. And then when I get to certain ones, I'll get like 5 minutes into the first episode and I'll go, no, this sucks. And then I got to delete all those.
All of the episodes of it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Usually what I'll do is I'll just hook up the feed. And I don't download all the episodes, but what I do, there's like 3 shows that as I have gaps, I'll go and try to catch up on these 3 that have been running for years and years. So I do that to fill any holes that I have. And it always seems that the shows that I find that I'm interested in are like 5 to 10 years old. And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, probably 85-90% of what I listen to is comic book stuff. I listen to some news shows from NPR. I listen to a couple wrestling podcasts, and that's about it. Most of it is just comic book stuff, and only certain kinds of comic book stuff, like the CGS panel shows like that. Nah, I don't listen to that. I listen to people talk about, do index shows of old books. Yeah. That is primarily what I listen to.
Yeah, a lot of times if I'm listening to a comic book podcast, it's usually something like that. I try to stay caught up with like Eric's long box review.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't listened to a lot of CGS lately. I have Billy's Monsters and Mazes subscribed, but I'm way behind on that. I need to catch up on a lot of that. But yeah, a lot of time, like this is what I'm listening to right now, and it's about some kind of British reality TV show that I've never heard about that seemed kind of interesting. And so, it's I'm so quick to just follow stuff. Like I said, then I'm like, oh, here's the full season is about this. Put it in my queue, and then it doesn't take me. There's it's one of the thing about being a podcast listener. There's so much out there that you can kind of afford to go 3 minutes in and go, nope, this one's not for me. Delete and move on.
Yeah, there's no lack of things to listen to when you look. So it's like, if this one doesn't work, ditch it. I mean, it might get better or whatever, but it's like, how long do you have to wait while other things that you could be liking, you could be listening to? Yeah, it's like, no, it's just not worth the time to hope that it gets to be something that I enjoy. Just ditch it and find something that you do enjoy. It's
like TV. It's like TV nowadays. I saw a thing pop up for a new show on Max. It's like a Max original series, and it's like a game show based on Friends, the TV show, and it's like trivia and stuff. And I said, "Oh, this sounds interesting." And so I started up the first episode, and I don't think we got 2 minutes into it. And I looked at my daughter and I said, "This is dumb. I'm not watching this." And she was like, "Oh, okay."
Okay, so there you go.
Let's get back to Bob's Burgers. And she goes, "Oh, all right, yeah." So
Bob's Burgers, or the Star Wars shows that I'm behind, or only dead bodies in the building, or I mean, there's 3 or 4 other shows that I have fallen behind on that it's like, yeah, I make a note of these new shows and when they come out, and it's like, yeah, I'll watch an episode, and it's like, yeah, no, I'll just go back to what I do know I definitely want to watch rather than trying something because, yeah, it's just,
Yeah, and I spend so much time sitting here, either trying to work on my own podcast or editing somebody else's podcast. A lot of times when I'm done and I go in there to sit down and watch some TV, I just put on something like Bob's Burgers or, How I Met Your Mother, something that I've watched hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times before because I just don't want to think about anything and I just need something in the background.
right,
Uh,
right.
the new Reacher is coming up though in
Oh,
January or February.
that'll be ready to go as soon as
Yeah,
they drop. Yeah, we'll
heck
we'll
yeah,
definitely watch that. Yeah,
heck
that's
yeah. Because so far that's been a really good show.
yep.
There is something though that's on Prime that I keep meaning to check out, and I just never do. Yeah, there's just so much. I have an app called Just Watch,
Hmm.
and you put in all the streaming services that you use, and you can every day you can check to see what just landed on that streaming service. And it's one of my morning routines. I get up, go to the bathroom, sitting on the toilet, go through my email, and then I check my Just Watch and see if there's anything interesting.
Right,
And there always is, but it's whether or not I'll ever watch it. I don't know.
right. Yeah,
Because there's always something interesting. And if that stuff, if the TV with the various streaming services was built like a podcast app where I could just stick all that stuff in a queue and watch it as it
yes.
pops up, that'd be great. Somebody's going to invent that at some point and license out,
Oh, I
those.
I keep bitching about an a la carte video service. That is absolutely what we need. But my fear is that when it does come out, it will be so expensive because everybody will want not just a piece, but they'll want the same amount of piece. And it's like, look, having $8 or $10, $20, I can't pay for that. That's just not, it's not feasible. So everybody wants to make money off of it. So I suspect that there will never truly be an a la carte. The best that you will get is like 2 or 3 services get together for a monthly fee, and then that's the
And
most that you will get.
yeah, and that's actually happening right now. For the longest time when Disney Plus started, because
Right,
Disney owns Hulu and they own
right,
ESPN, so you could bundle those three
right.
and pay
Which I
one
do.
fee.
I have that bundle
Yeah,
now.
but
But they just hooked up what Max? They dropped
Max,
ESPN
yeah,
and hooked Max up. Yeah,
yeah, and we subscribed to Max and we subscribed to Hulu and we subscribed to Disney Plus, and so
okay.
when that bundle came up, I switched to that, and it's like,
Hmm.
it's like we're saving like $10-15 a month.
Right, and still getting to watch all the things
Yeah,
that you want to see. But yeah,
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 and the nice thing is, with a few exceptions, um, every you can watch it all on the Hulu app. You don't
okay,
have to jump back and forth. But I've noticed, like, because I'm watching Skeleton Crew, that new Star Wars
right.
show. I can't seem to. It's that doesn't seem to be streaming through Hulu, which is weird because it's the same owners. But
I guess they want you to use their stuff.
I know it's weird.
Once again, that seems to be, it's not so much the money, although they want the money. They want to be, whoever they are, want to be able to claim that X number of people subscribe, X number of hours are spent, and so you have to go to their specific in order to do it, rather than one portal that gives you access to everybody that you subscribe to, which to me is that's why people subscribe to the groups, is because they want to go to one place and see all of them. So why? Yeah, that's
I don't know. Skeleton Crew is so far the only one that I have not been able to watch through
hmm,
Hulu. Not that I'm seeking a lot of
okay,
stuff out, but
right.
everything that has been on Max that I watch, I can watch through Hulu. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, it is one place like that.
All right. Okay, so
See this.
2 weeks from today will be January the 4th. Should we plan on that? Or pencil that down as a
Yeah,
possible next time?
we can put that in. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't be able to.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. We have Palin is back right now for the holidays, but she actually the Great Clips that she worked at in Lawrence before she went off to school is letting her work while she's back home on holiday. So she's working today, and so I got both girls out today, but Palin hers started a little bit later than Rana, which is why I moved this to 11 instead of 10:30. But yeah, I don't right now. I see no reason why I can't get together on the 4th.
Okay, it's penciled in.
Cool. All right. For those of you watching live, I am ending the live stream now. I want to thank Ed, and I would like to thank the new folks that joined us
Which
today.
is
Charles
just
Phillips.
about everybody that chimed in.
Yeah, the 757 Hustle Show. Billy D, who's not, he's been around, but he chimed in today. And then Logan. I'm not going to try Logan. You'll have to
Missiak, I believe, but
Yeah.
I'm
Tell
not
us
sure.
phonetically how to pronounce that. But yeah, it was a pretty productive viewing day
Yeah,
for the
not bad at all.
live channel. So I'm going to go ahead and end that stream. Bye, everybody.